Well, hello, everyone. Today is our exciting day, October 8th. You like our beautiful background here? This is what we used for our Conquer conference last year when we did it virtually. And I thought, you know what? We're going to pull it up and let you see what it looks like. It was an amazing conference, and we're going to have another one this year. So we hope that you join Conquer so that you can attend live. But let me know that you are here. We have a 3-hour power-packed time together that you are going to learn all kinds of amazing things. So if you're here and if we're live, if you could just say hello to me, that always makes me feel secure. That makes me feel loved from the audience. And it knows that I'm not just talking to myself, which I hate. I do not like talking to myself. So working on a camera is really hard when you don't have anyone listening to you or that you don't know anyone is listening to you. Now, I saw that J. Liz said good morning before she actually went live. So, okay, now I'm seeing some of you. Sandy, thank you. Leslie, so good to see you. Welcome, everyone. We were going to play some music, and then I was afraid if I played music early, people would get on and think, oh, Leslie's not here. I guess we're not doing it. Turn it off. So we didn't play any music, but welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad you're here right at the noon hour Eastern time, wherever else you are. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, my time, so I'm still drinking my coffee. But I'm going to let you know right now what the schedule is going to look like for the next 3 hours, because there may be some things that you absolutely do not want to miss. I hope that you stay here for the whole time because we are talking all things Conquer. Remember, this is my public Facebook page, so I don't want you to say or type something that you might later regret, but you're going to hear all kinds of good stuff. So let me give you a schedule. Maybe you want to write some of this down. I'm going to be with you for about 20 minutes. I'm just going to share some things from my heart. And then we are going to have a guest, Rachel, someone who's a member of Conquer, who's been a member of Conquer for a while. She's a professional person. And she ended up having a breakdown because of her marriage, because of it affected her mental health so much. And she's going to talk about how the Conquer program and how the Conquer journey helped her get stable again, to get sane again. Then, so she's going to be here at 12:45. So let me start again. I missed Leanne. So I'm going to be talking for about 15 or 20 minutes. Then Leanne, Coach Leanne, is going to come on, and she's going to talk about the Conquer journey. Sometimes it seems a little overwhelming when you think about, joining Conquer. And so last night I was trying to think, how can I make this easy for you to understand? When you join Conquer, you're making a decision that I want to get healthy. And it's sort of like making a decision to join a gym. And there are all kinds of options and all kinds of classes that you can go to or not go to. But if you go to the gym 3 times a week and you spend 15 minutes on the treadmill 3 times a week, you are going to be in better shape than you were if you didn't go to the gym at all. Now, you could go to the gym every single day for an hour. You could take multiple different classes. You could join this. You could join Zumba. You could join spinning classes. You could join weightlifting classes. You could hire a personal trainer. You could do all that, but you don't have to. But if you join a gym, there's some basics that you probably should do if you're going to get healthy, right? So the same way as with Conquer. You're joining Conquer, and we have a lot that you could do. You could do it all. And a lot of women do. And they make progress a little faster. Just like if you were at the gym and you were there 5 days a week for an hour and you hired a personal trainer, you make progress a little faster. But it doesn't mean that you don't make progress if all you do is go 15 minutes 3 times a week and work your way up on the treadmill for 15 minutes to walk a mile in 15 minutes or walk 2 miles in 20 minutes, so that you're now building your stamina, you're building your strength, and you're building your physical health. Right? In the same way, Conquer has a lot of different options, which I'll explain to you. It's the same price. You can do all of it or one of it. And it's a low price. So even if you only went 3 times a week or even once a week and watched a video and did the handout and participated in Facebook for that little time about the handout, I think you would get your money worth. It's an amazing program. It really, really is. And we try to give as much variety to different people who have different learning styles. Some people don't like doing video. Some people don't want to connect with the community. So we have a 3-pronged approach in Conquer. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But let me just show you real quickly. We have a 3-pronged approach to Conquer. We have our content, which is a lot. So if you want to know something about the Bible with abuse, it's there. All right. We have content. If you want to know anything about gaslighting, anything about covert abuse, anything about parental alienation, it's there. What does the Bible have to say about those things? It's there. How do I respond to that? It's there. Every single piece of our content is based on our signature core strength program. So we're helping you build core strength. So what is core strength? core strength physically is when you can stand up. So I'm going to do this here. For those of you who are currently in Conquer, I'm going to do a Conquer video tomorrow for you, standing entirely on one foot. For as long as it takes me to talk on one foot, I'm going to stand like this because I do have good core strength physically, because I do walk, I do play pickleball, I do exercise, because core strength is critical. Well, one of the main components of our Conquer content is building your core strength, not changing your husband. And 4 steps in core strength. See, I'm courageously committed to the truth. I'm not going to minimize, deny, or pretend anymore. Even if I can't be truthful to my husband, I have to be truthful with myself if I want to be healthy, right? Just like if I want to be healthy, I have to exercise, even a little. I have to be truthful to myself. If I want to be healthy, that's the first component. C, courageously committed to the truth, because sometimes reality is ugly and we don't want to see it. So we close our eyes and go into denial. Not if you want to be healthy. Number 2, O, I'm open. I'm open to wise others. I'm open to learning. I'm open to the Holy Spirit to see it differently now, God. The Pharisees weren't open. Your husband's not open. Sometimes church leaders aren't open. And when we're not open, we can't learn. We can't adjust our thinking. We can't revise our mental maps. And so part of growing is learning to be more open to what God has to say to us that might be different than we thought what God was saying to us. The next step of our core strength program is R. I'm going to be responsible for myself. Instead of waiting for a Superman to fix me or heal me or save me, my pastor, another man, somebody else, the counselor, you have to work on you. Even if you go pay someone to help you, whether it's in Conquer or you hire a counselor, you still have to do the work. And so owning that, I am going to be responsible to steward my one precious life. I am going to take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. I am going to learn how to guard my heart and mind. I am going to learn how to think on whatsoever things are true and good and right. I'm going to learn to stand on one foot for a longer period of time, even when I'm under stress. I'm going to learn how to do that. I'm going to take responsibility for the growth that I need to do in order to be the person I want to be. So that's the R step. And I'm going to be respectful toward others in my communication without dishonoring myself. Sometimes we're not respectful, ladies. We're compliant. When we're compliant to an abuser, we're dishonoring ourselves. So we're going to talk about the difference in all of our curriculum about what that looks like. How do you respond? And how do you respond in a respectful way? So every single piece of our curriculum, whether I'm talking about parental alienation or I'm talking about covert abuse or whatever we're talking about in our curriculum, has to do with one of those 4 steps or multiple 4 steps of core. And then the last step is I'm going to stay empathetic and compassionate because I don't want to turn into a hard-hearted, bitter old woman. I'm going to stay compassionate because God calls me even to love my enemy. But he doesn't call me to kiss them, and he doesn't call me to live with them, and he doesn't call me to sleep with them. So what does that look like if I'm married to my enemy? I'm going to be compassionate without enabling. I'm going to be empathetic. That's the E step. And compassionate without enabling. So every single piece of our curriculum has to do with you doing your work, not demonizing or diagnosing your husband. I've seen all different kinds of husbands who were immature, husbands who were evil, wicked men. I get it. You might be married to one of those. And it is a hardship for you. But your work in Conquer isn't to figure him out. Your work in Conquer is to do your work, like joining the gym. So if that's something of interest to you, stay for our time. So let me give you the schedule. From 12 to 12:20, I'm going to talk. So I have about 10 more minutes to talk with you about some things. And then Leanne, Coach Leanne's going to come on, and she's going to describe our Conquer journey, which is our fast track. For those of you who join Conquer, it's the first 2 months that you're in Conquer, that you're going to get some of the basics down. Doesn't mean you're going to have them all done, like you could stand on one foot forever, but you're going to at least know what are the basics. So you have to stop lying to yourself about safety. And if you're not safe, whether it's not safe spiritually, not safe sexually, not safe financially, or not safe physically, you have to courageously embrace that truth, right? That's part of our core curriculum. And then the next step is clarity. Am I seeing clearly? Am I seeing clearly what's going on? What's going wrong? What I'm doing as part of the destructive enabling dance by being too passive or too accommodating or too compliant? Or am I reacting in rebellious and awful ways? And now my kids are calling me the abuser, right? We want to get clear on all that. So that's our next module in the fast track Conquer journey. And then we want to get stable. We don't want to keep reacting and overreacting and underreacting. We want to get stable in all of our ways, including living with a destructive spouse or leaving a destructive spouse. We want to do it in a stable, healthy way. And then we want to get strong. What does it mean to grow in strength as a woman? The Bible describes the Proverbs 31 woman as strength and dignity is our clothing, and she smiles with the future unafraid. I want that. I hope you do too. And then our last step of a Conquer journey is, what does it look like to be a confident woman of God? I don't think we talk about that because this meek and quiet spirit always assumes we wouldn't have any moxie. We wouldn't have any boldness or courage, but that's not true. We see lots of women in the Bible who are full of moxie. Esther and Ruth and the Hebrew midwives and then Abigail and Vashti and just on and on and on of women in the Bible who had to put their brave on, and they did. And they did some amazing things. And so we want to teach you that that's not God's will for you just to stay in the background, quiet, subservient to all the men in your life. It doesn't mean you should be disrespectful, or it doesn't mean you are going to operate outside of your own personality comfort zone. I'm a strong introvert, so I am not out there, but if I have to speak up, I can, and I will, and I'm confident in what I have to say. So that's our fast track, and Leanne's going to be talking about her favorite part of that because she leads that in our Conquer Facebook page. And then at 12:45 or whatever time zone you're in, 45 minutes, we're going to have a Conquer sister come in, and she's going to talk about how she got mentally unhealthy in her destructive marriage and what she had to do, even though it wasn't her fault. She was in this situation, but it's her responsibility to get healthy. What did she do, and what part of Conquer helped her specifically? And then after she's done, we're going to have another Conquer sister, Tammy, and she's going to talk about detaching. Her husband was very indifferent to her, and all of a sudden he became very demanding and controlling, and she didn't know what to do, and she wanted to stay. She had 10 kids, but she didn't know how to stay well, and so she's going to share her journey. What did it look like to do her own work? She wasn't going to change him. And then at 1:25 Eastern time, we're going to have another Conquer sister come in, Dana, and she's going to talk about what it was like for her to finally decide she had to leave, that she had to get a divorce. And how did she do that? And how did she come to that decision? And then at 1:45, we're going to have another Conquer sister. So you're going to hear from women who have done it, who've been where you are and have gotten the help that they needed. And they're still getting the help. When you go to the gym, it's not like you say, okay, I'm going to sign up for a 3-month membership, and then I'm going to exercise for 3 months, and then I'm going to be in shape. There is maintenance that you have to do, and there's new things that you can do. So you get in aerobic shape, but maybe your muscles still need to be worked on, or maybe you get in good shape physically, but you need more yoga to stretch and be able to be more limber and flexible. So there's lots of work to do to grow strong and healthy. And Conquer gives you all those opportunities. You don't have to do it all at once. It's overwhelming all at once, but the program is robust. It is really robust, and you can continue to grow. We have women in Conquer from the very beginning. We have women who've been in Conquer for 8 years because it's that good and it's that robust. And they're now giving back to other women. And that feels good, to be able to help other women who've been where they're at and help them grow too. And then at 2:00, we're going to have another Conquer guest. And she is going to talk about her health problems. And she was a young woman. She started having really serious health problems in her 20s. And she had these limiting beliefs. We talk about this in Conquer a lot. If we're going to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, then we're going to have to learn to think more clearly. This is part of getting healthy, right? I'm courageously committed to the truth. Jesus says the truth will set you free. And so we talk about our limiting beliefs and what we believe that we're convinced is true. For example, oh, I'm too stupid to do that. Or I could never figure out that technology. Or that's too hard for me. These are limiting beliefs. They're things you believe that you live that story, but it's totally not true. And sometimes you need a surrounding group of women who show you it's not true because they did it and show you how to do it. And you can put one's foot in front of the other behind their feet, and they can show you the way. So she will describe that. And then Coach Diana is going to come at 2:20, and she's going to talk about a topic excuse me, that all of you are going to want to hear about. She's a really good expert on covert abuse. Some of you have a hard time seeing it and accepting it because the abuse is so hidden, so covert, and nobody would believe that your husband does what he does but you. And so it's really crazy making. And so she's going to come on and she's going to talk about covert abuse and how do you tell the difference between overt abuse and covert abuse. And then at 2:40, Coach Unia is going to come on, and she's going to talk about how you can help yourself not be so easily manipulated. Again, manipulation is one of the tools of an abuser. And if you can recognize that, you're not going to change the manipulator. You're not going to say, I see you manipulating me, stop manipulating me. They're just going to switch to a different manipulative tactic. So if they're trying to love bomb you into giving them what they want and you don't comply, well, guess what? They'll just change to a different manipulative tactic, like guilt tripping you or pressuring you. And you have to learn those tactics so that you don't give in. You're not going to change the manipulator, but you can change your side of the street. You can change your dance. And that's what we teach you how to do in Conquer. So Coach Udia is going to come and talk about that. And then I am going to close and wrap up and invite you, because today is our last day that you can join Conquer. We've had over 500 women sign up already, and we're excited to greet you. If you have already signed up for Conquer, you are going to get a welcome invitation to join a group next week. We want you to join that group because we want you to understand our community and our culture. And that's part of being in Conquer, to build those relationships. And if you're skittish about that, we understand. You can join with your camera off if you want. You can join with a fictitious name on Zoom. We can do that. But we want you to see what we're like. We want you to put your toe in the water, put your brave on, and join those groups for next week, because we want you to understand that community and connection, that triangle. We have content, tons of it. We have a gym full of exercise machines, and you can work lots of them. We have lots of classes you can go to. You can do lots of them. But without the community support and without the connection of other women, it's not as likely as you will be successful. Most people who go to the gym, take a class, go with a buddy, meet people there, and develop connections to keep them going to the gym. We want you to get healthy. We want you to get strong. It's not just us. God wants you to get healthy. God wants you to get strong. It is God's will that you mature and live a holy life, even if your marriage doesn't make it. And our goal is to help you get there. And whether or not your husband looks at you and says, what happened to you? I want some of that too. Or whether he looks at you and says, you're getting wrong advice and you need to submit and go back to the way you were, then you'll have to make some tough decisions. We don't know what the outcome will be. When Esther went into the king, she didn't know what the outcome would be. When Abigail went up to David, she didn't know what the outcome would be. Sometimes we do the right thing and we have no idea what the outcome is going to be. That's not your place. That's God's place. Your place is to walk in faith and do the thing that God's calling you to do. And God is definitely calling you to be a growth-oriented woman, to mature and live a holy life. And so God wants you to grow stronger, and he wants you to grow taller and more confident and courageous in who he made you to be. All right, so I see Coach Leanne there. So I am going to invite her to come on. Hold on, Leanne. Hey, Leanne, how are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing well. It's so good to see you.
Do you love our background? Do you remember this one?
I adore that background. And I was so excited that you were in front of that background this morning as we prepare to talk about this, because that speaks all things Conquer right behind your head, Leslie. So it's just such an honor to be here with you today.
Good, good. One of the questions I see in the feed right now is, will this be aired later? It'll be recorded. So you can go into Facebook, on my Facebook page, on the Intimate Relationships That Matter Most. You'll also get emailed a recording of it, so you can watch parts of it later. But this is a big B-U-T. Conquer closes today. It closes today at midnight. So if you are thinking about joining Conquer and you wait to watch the recording tomorrow and said, oh my gosh, this is such a good program, I want to join, too late. Too late. So you have to join Conquer today. You can watch a recording tomorrow. You can watch a recording Sunday. You can watch it again and again and again, because it's going to have some really good stuff on it. But if you're going to join Conquer, you need to do that today, because today is the last day. So I'm going to put up a little thing to show you how to join. If you're listening by phone in your car, it's leslievernick.com, just like you got to my website page, my Facebook page, leslievernick.com/join Conquer. Join Conquer. Conquer is $370 for a year, which for some of you is a better proposition. Why? Number one, you're all in. you make a commitment. Number 2, you get 2 months free. Number 3, so Martha, you keep texting me? Okay, I'll check in a minute. Number 3, my phone is going ding, 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 so it's distracting me. Hold on. Number 1, you get 2 months free. Number 2, you're all in. Number 3, the privacy for you is a little bit better. If you're worried about your husband checking the credit card statement every month and giving you a hassle about being in Conquer, just getting a gift card at Target for $370 and putting your membership on that, or even on your credit card for one time, saying I'm taking a class, may be easier for you at home than it is if it's coming through monthly. So you decide that's yours. It's $37 a month. Like I said, it's like a gym membership. You can do lots of stuff in there. You can do a few things in there, and we'll explain a little bit more what's all in there. There's content, tons of it. Leanne's going to talk about that now. There's community and there's connection. Speaking of connection, we are having our group meetings next week, but if you want to meet me in person, I am flying to Minneapolis. This is part of how we build community with one another. I'm flying to Minneapolis. Our Conquer sisters are meeting. I'm speaking there on a Saturday. We're meeting for dinner on Friday night at somebody's home. And we have, I think, 10 to 12 Conquer sisters already going to be there. And I come there to meet you, but I love it that you meet one another, because now people in Minneapolis will have sisters, Conquer sisters, who know what their life is like, that they can call and turn to if you're in a crisis, or you need just a prayer partner or an accountability partner right in your own town. All right, Leanne, tell us a little bit about your experience doing the Conquer journey.
Thank you, Leslie. And I'm excited that you're going to Minneapolis. That's my home stomping grounds. So Minneapolis girls, get ready. So, there are some things that I really love about the Conquer journey. I believe that Conquer is indeed a lifeline. And I hear that from a lot of women. It's like women will tell us in the space that they feel like they have been treading water super fast, and they're and kind of bobbing in and out of the water. And then they feel like Conquer and the Conquer journey is like throwing them a buoy. It's like throwing them a lifeline. And right behind your head, Leslie, is everything Conquer, right? And, you had asked me early on, before, when we knew we were going to be doing this today, to think about what my favorite part of the Conquer journey is, right? And so as I was thinking about that, I thought it's safety. And that's directly right behind your head. And I love that whole idea. And ladies, like Leslie shared, you're going to find your moxie here in the Conquer community. How do you do that? We do that by signing up by today. And then you're going to get a link to this unique, beautiful membership site. And the Conquer journey is going to be your first stop. And it is a kick start to all things Conquer. It's going to be an 11-week journey that we have the privilege of walking with you through. We're going to start right away with connecting you. Like Leslie said, that beautiful triangle of content, community, and connection. We're going to start right away with getting you connected with other women who are just finding out about Conquer and joining in the space. So we're going to provide opportunities for you to meet one another. And then starting the end of October, we're going to be doing this journey together. So many of you here in this space have been navigating your destructive, disappointing, difficult, hair-pulling relationships. You've been doing that by yourself. And it's scary to do it by yourself. And it's lonely. And there's a lot of insecurity and fear that can come in. So by walking into this Conquer journey with other women who get you, who are in the same station as you, godly women who want to seek and explore what it means to get healthier and stronger at the core. So we're going to start with awakening. A lot of you are here right now in this live because you are waking up. You've been hearing our lives. Leslie has had some brilliant content and topics that we have been talking about for weeks now. And I know when I was on the other day, Leslie, there was women saying, I've been listening to these for a long time, and this is all resonating with me, but I'm scared. I don't make friends easily. Well, that's the beautiful thing about Conquer. You don't have to be afraid to be real with your story here. And that's what the awakening is about, is we're going to talk about what is it like when some of the scales, for lack of better words, or clearing up of the fog is removed. We all have different lenses that we look through our situations through in our life. And there are many, like you were speaking about, Leslie, the limiting beliefs. that can hold us back from seeing things more clearly. But you're here because you're seeing that your relationships are destructive, whether it be emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, whatever it is. So that awakening piece is big. And the reason why I say the safety piece, which is our next step in the Conquer journey, why it's so important to me is I believe that you can get safer every single day. And my goal, walking you through the Conquer journey, is that you get safer every day than when you first joined. So even when you get off of this call, off of this live with us, that you're going to feel safer because of spending time in this community. Right. And so then we're going to go into clarity. Like Leslie kind of already reviewed all the different steps. And so I don't probably need to go through, but I am going to say them again because some of you are just joining. We've got almost 200 people here with us.
That's
Leslie,
amazing. Let me just say something about safety too. I just want to clarify. We start with safety because core strength, if you're scared, it's hard to be in core. It's hard to function well. But you might not be scared. You might not be scared of any physical danger. You might not think your husband's going to kill you. I imagine Gabby Patina didn't have any idea that her boyfriend was capable of killing her, but he did, or at least it looks like he did. So sometimes we have to open our eyes. We have to be awakened. We've never had a woman killed in Conquer, but we have had a couple of their husbands kill themselves. And I think that there could have been a situation had they not gone through the safety module, had they not done what we've talked to them about doing. And many, many women have written me or come up to me and said, you saved my life. So we don't want to take this lightly, but maybe you are pretty sure your husband's so checked out and passive, he would never do anything like that. But do you know what's happening to you safely financially? Are your bank accounts being drained? Is your credit being ruined? Is your tax bills not being paid? Do you know anything about that? You're legally liable just as he is if you're still married to someone. And so we go through all different kinds of safety. Are you being spiritually abused? Are you so confused spiritually that you think God wants you to be abused in order to stay married? So we go through each aspect of safety, not just the physical danger, which is real for some of you, or some of you don't even know it's real, but it's real, but also some of the other kinds of safety that you're to steward yourself about. All right, I just want to make sure that everybody understood it wasn't just physical danger, but it could be.
Right. And, this financial safety comes up all the time because, like you said, in this world that we are living in right now, the emotional safety, the spiritual safety, we're seeing some challenges in churches too. And so the safety plans that we talk about, we spend 2 weeks on each one of these steps. And either myself or another one of our coaches on our team is going to walk with you into the Conquer journey. And like I said, this is a kickstart into this triangle that Leslie talks about. It's going to get you further along than you have ever been before. And, when I say scared, some women are afraid to find out the passwords. Do you know, Leslie, if I could share a story, I would love to share one of the experiences that I had when I was doing the live with our gals. I've had the privilege of walking the Conquer journey now. I think this will be like my 4th time going through the journey with our ladies. And I remember one of the gals that was on the live with us, and she shared, I'm afraid to even call my bank to find out what my passcodes are. And it was such a beautiful space for her to be in, so empowering when she realized that she can pick up the phone. She can get the information that she needs to get in order to make the best decisions that she can for her. And so,
Right. And
ladies,
that's see, I'm courageously committed to the truth. I need to know where I'm at financially.
right, we get to, and that's part of getting our moxie on, like you spoke about, Leslie. That's part of getting safer. Ladies, we don't need to get to be scared or afraid to find out the information that is legally and rightfully yours. And perhaps you've been told that you're not entitled to that information. And we're here to say, yes, you are. And you can be safer emotionally, financially, in all of those areas. I have some notes here that I just wanted to make sure that I shared, because I feel like when we are safer in all of these arenas, the confusion gets cleared up in our minds. So many of us are wondering, and I've seen even in the feed, am I in an emotionally destructive relationship? Is this what I am living? And Leslie, you have a resource for them where they can really, even before Conquer closes today, you can take a test. You can take a little quiz and find out if that's you. And I just want to encourage you that you're going to have opportunities to walk with other women into a real sacred and safe space. Perhaps some of you have never been safe to share your story before. I hear that from women every day, that I finally feel safe to share. And I finally feel like women get me, other women get me, because our relationships are complex. So the journey is just the beginning. We're going to be doing this for 11 weeks. Yes, it's self-paced, and it doesn't end after the journey. It is just the start. It's kind of like getting your feet wet, right? It's kind of like, here we go. So the Conquer journey is kind of like scuba diving. Right? We're going to go through and we're going to see things that we have never seen before. And then the more you spend time in community, the more you spend in the material with all of us who are so committed to you, then it's going to be like you're scuba diving. And we are down into the depths of healthy relationships, our healthy core. And we turn our scared into sacred. It's this sacred space with the Lord in order to walk out our core strength and get healthier. I love the ER after every single word. We are more stable. We are safer. We are more confident. We talk a lot about during the confidence module, which is another one of my faves, Leslie, about, I say it's, we're gaining our Godfidence. What does it mean to truly trust God? Many of us here in this space have had our trust betrayed.
Yeah. I think that's so good. And we really want you to understand that it is God's will for you to be safe. He was even concerned about baby Jesus's safety. And he didn't just say to Joseph, well, just trust me and Herod, I'll protect you from Herod. He said, flee, Joseph, flee. God cares about your safety, and he cares about your safety and your sanity more than he cares about faking it in a marriage that's broken and ungodly and abusive. And so, ladies, one of the things that the Conquer community does for you, Leanne, in the Conquer journey, and walking this with other women who are in the same shoes. When we had our first welcome call for people who signed up early with Conquer, and you had it with me, and there were tears at this welcome call, the same I'm inviting you to come to next week. There were tears of, oh my gosh, I had this conversation with this woman I never knew. We talked for 5 minutes, and I feel closer to her than I feel to anybody else in my life right now, because she gets where I'm at. She doesn't think I'm crazy. She's got the same problem I do. And now I have a prayer partner. It is life transforming to find out that you are not alone. That's the first thing you find out in community. The second thing that you find out in community is you find out that your lawyer might not know everything that you thought they did, because other people's lawyers said something else. And so all of a sudden you say, my lawyer said this, is it true? And somebody say, hey, my lawyer said, and now you've got this lack of isolation where you only hear one voice. My pastor says this, and everybody's going, no, the Bible says this. And so now you're hearing different perspectives, different points of view, different strategies, different ways of thinking that you would have never thought. I don't even think of it sometimes. Our Conquer girls are smart girls now. They're wise. They are good students of God's word, and they are resourceful. Boy, if you need something financially, let's see, you could do this, go here, check here, here's a link there. It's amazing, this community of support and help that will help you get things that you could never. It would take you so long to get them on your own. The community is phenomenal that way.
I love that you brought that up, Leslie, because that is the deal. Our healing happens when we're in relationship, and that collective wisdom. We are stronger together. And when you get over 2,000 women in a space that get each other, that understand and uphold each other, and they claim no more isolation, no more abuse, no more silence, no more neglecting our own spiritual growth and our own core values. When we all collectively are in that space, it's amazing what happens in the spiritual realm. And to see a woman go from fear to flourishing, to go from feeling incredibly broken to claiming and understanding the beauty, the beautifulness that God created them uniquely, and help them find their identity again as we go through the strength module. It is one of the most beautiful opportunities. And you know what really encourages me is not only do I grow and I flourish every time I do this, I'm a Conquer lifer. You know that. I'm like, I am here. I am so in, because this Conquer has changed my life. It's changed my relationships. It's changed my perspective, and it's helped me to own my identity where I was afraid to even fully be me. How many here, write down in the feed if you have been told you're too much or you're not enough.
Yeah. It's one or the other.
You're going to find out
If you're a bubbly extrovert and you're married to an introvert, he's always telling you you're too much. Quiet it down, dial it down, you're too much. Or if you're a subtle introvert, he's always like, why can't you be more perky? What's wrong with you? And you always feel like there's something wrong with you. Nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need to shine the person you are, not try to be someone you're not.
Right. And sometimes, Leslie, and that's what we have the freedom to do in Conquer, is we encourage every woman to reclaim the identity that God has given you. Instead of, this little light of mine, we don't want you to hide it under a bushel. You've been hiding long enough. You've been pretending long enough. You have been wearing a mask that does not fit you. And it's prevented you from even fully seeing who God created you to be. And we're here in Conquer to help you with that. We're here to walk with you as you learn to set healthy boundaries. We talk about that in the Conquer journey. I know that that's a big topic for many. We talk about how to regulate your emotions and how to not live from your emotions, but to live from the core of who you are. We learn how to respond instead of react. How many of you are reactors in this space? I know I can be. I'm just keeping it real. Right? We just be real. And I think, Leslie, that's why I love, committed, these words that are behind you, confidence, stability, strength. If these words resonate with you, then the Conquer journey is where you want to start. It is going to be your kickstart to the rest of your life. And I don't know about you, but I want 2021 to end a little stronger, and I want to be safer than I was when I began. And part of that is our own personal decision. Nobody can push go into the Conquer experience except for you. And what might be waiting for you, you might find your very next BFF right here in Conquer. There may be a sister that lives next to you that you didn't know was going through the same situation as you are. I know I've gotten calls from girlfriends that I have had throughout the years that this is part of their story, Leslie, right? We've got a Conquer community in Arizona that would blow everybody's mind about how connected and how much we love and support each other. And it's just such a beautiful space. So if you're ready not to feel alone, this is your opportunity. And the Conquer journey, like I said, is your kickstart. And we're going to get you through that within a really reasonable part of time. It's after the first of the year, you're going to have completed the entire Conquer journey in community with others who are right there walking it with you. And it's a beautiful space to be.
Yeah, I loved your analogy of the scuba diving. Another analogy, if we use the gym analogy, when you join a gym, they take you through the exercise machines and they say, okay, this one does this one does this one does this one does. So that's what the Conquer journey is like. Leanne will take you through each step of the Conquer journey and say, here's what safety looks like. Here's what you need to do. Let's do it together. Let's make sure you know how to do it. That doesn't mean you're an expert in safety or that you finished it all. It just means that you know how to do that now. And you still do it. You still work it. You still continue to do those exercises, even if the trainer isn't with you every step of the way. And this is really crucial because we build strength upon strength, small steps at a time. We don't come in and go to the gym for 5 hours one day and then leave for the next 5 weeks and think that we made any progress. We didn't. We just got sore and tired and probably injured. So we go in there every day and we do something every day. Even if you don't go into the Conquer membership, you're saying to yourself every day, how do I want to show up today? How do I need to calm myself down today? How do I need to contain this rage that I feel so I don't blow up in front of my kids and make a fool out of myself? These are things that are really important for you to learn because, ladies, the consequences, if you don't learn them, are severe, not only to your health physically, to your mental health, as well as your future relationship with your children. Because if your husband can provoke you to start acting crazy and out of control, he can call you the mentally ill one. And he can also begin to stack the deck against you in court. So we've had that happen. We want to protect you against that happening. And if you're in that place, beware. And we want to help you beware and get those muscles to stand strong. Leanne, thanks so much for being with us. We have our next guest here, so I want to make sure I stay on time. So I appreciate you, Coach. And thanks for coming from all the way from Iowa today to be with us and telling about the Conquer journey. This is your kickstart. This is helping you get onboarded really fast. We want you to get in the membership fast. There's tons of content, not just the Conquer journey. There's lots of lessons on all kinds of stuff. You have a whole Conquer workbook that you go through that you can download or send it to the printer at Staples or Office Depot and have them bind it for you that way, like Leanne is showing you. And every single video in the Conquer journey has a handout, has a transcript, has workbook things that you can fill in. This is all for $37 a month. This is amazing. And some of you are having trouble with the finances. We do offer scholarships, so please write in why you need a scholarship. But I also think that this is part of you owning, hey, what do I need to do to earn? And I would say probably, what do I need to do to earn $37 a month? Maybe I need to babysit 2 Saturday mornings a month. That would do it. Or maybe I need to sell some things on eBay or have a garage sale and get the $370 and join for the year. Maybe I need to something else. I mean, I think this is started at our step. I'm going to take responsibility for me. This isn't like $500,000. This is a small investment in your mental, spiritual, relational health. And we really want you to think about this as part of you taking that very first step of, I'm going to own that I need this. And I'm resourceful enough to figure out how to make an extra $37 a month. If I have to do something extra, or if I have to sell something, or if I have to offer to babysit my neighbor's kids for 2 Saturday mornings while she goes grocery shopping, whatever it might be, or run errands for somebody who's elderly in your neighborhood. These are very small commitments for huge benefits. Now, if you are absolutely unable, sometimes we have missionaries, other kinds of things who can't earn money in a foreign country, all that kind of stuff. We do offer a lot of scholarships. We do, and we don't want you to hesitate because of that. But we also don't want you to say, well, I don't want to give up my Starbucks, so I'll apply for a scholarship. All right, we want you to save those scholarships for women who really don't have the resources to earn money. They're disabled. They can't go out to work, those kind of things. But if you can give up something, or you can sell something, or you can work a little part-time job and help someone else out, it can be a win-win for both of you. All right, so we're going to move to our guest now. Thanks, Leanne. I appreciate you here. And we're going to invite Rachel on. So hold on. Rachel's one of our Conquer sisters. Hey, Rachel. I'm so glad to see you.
Hey. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How long have you been in Conquer?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. All right. And tell me a little bit about, or tell our audience, really, I read a little bit about you and have talked to you before, but tell us a little bit about how you decided your marriage was as bad as it was, or how you learned, how you awoke to that reality for yourself.
Sure. So I was married for 17 years. I have 2 beautiful kids, 15 and 9. And so, my husband was 15 years older than me. And basically, I struggled for several years. I think I left about 7 times in total throughout the years for emotional and mental health abuse from him. And really, unfortunately, in ways for me, I started having physical symptoms for 2 to 3 years. Went to multiple doctors, actually 7 in total, had a $200,000 workup for physical symptoms that in the end were deemed psychosomatic, like suppressed stress from all of that. And when everything happened, I had a voluntary inpatient mental health admission, like a full-blown mental breakdown, you could say. And I work as a nurse practitioner. And so, theoretically, I knew exactly what not to do, yet I continued to live that picturesque, like the white picket fence, and just one life in public and another life kind of like behind closed doors. And so it just progressed. And I think the Lord encouraged me to leave a lot sooner. And I was trying to do, the right Christian thing. And I let my self-stewardship go, and it led to that point. So, and I'm now 3 years, as of October 15th, I'll be 3 years separated. And now I'm dealing with a pretty severe case of parental alienation.
Yeah. What led to that? What led to that parental alienation?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. When I had my mental breakdown, I actually left the state to where all my family lives with my kids in the middle of the night. We had been living on our own for 3 months. We had left my husband, And there was threats with guns, and my husband got a felony charge, and he was really intimidating me. And when we left, he ended up calling CPS. He ended up getting an emergency petition for custody, and he has had primary placement for 3 years.
Yeah,
So
ladies, I really want to hear her story, because I don't know, Rachel, if you have are your computer on that's hearing me too? Could you? I'm not sure what's there's an echo on your end. I think a little bit with the sound. We'll push through it.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Anyway, this is really, really important, ladies, that her body, even though she was a nurse, cognitively, she knew that she was doing things that were going to hurt her own self. Her spiritual beliefs led her to believe that marriage and staying married and being married was more important than stewarding her own self. And what was your church's response to all this?
Yeah, my church, we actually went to some Christian counseling 4 or 5 years before, and my pastor supported the fact that it was actually abuse and that I needed to leave. And about a year before the breakdown, him and his wife sat down, and he's like, there's things that you can accept and work with, and then there's the unacceptable. And they really pushed for me to draw a line as far as him making effort towards change or leaving. And he had no interest in, helping himself, my husband. So that was part of the decision making. But again, I was still very slow to listen to that.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think it was about your own work that needed to be done to help you biblically come on board with it's okay to take care of yourself and it's okay to leave this marriage?
Yeah, I really feel like aside from doctrine, because as I read the Bible, I just felt it was wrong. But the Lord gave me a personal discernment at one point, and I think He was kind of whispering it in my prayer time much earlier. I really, and this is an unhealthy way to view it, but I ended up viewing self-stewardship as selfish towards the end of my marriage, and that's, I think, what contributed to the mental breakdown. Like I just, all I can say is personal discernment with the Lord has given it, He's given me peace that this was a situation that was beyond reconcile, beyond healthy, and unfortunately, my children are sustaining significant emotional and mental abuses. I mean, my son has a stress-induced tic. My daughter has depression and early symptoms of anorexia.
Mm. Was it you leaving the state without permission that caused this custody issue?
Yes, mostly. And then what happened is he was granted the kids, and he went and got them, and he kept them home for 3 weeks. And then when I came home, I faced child neglect charges for the 3 days before I went into the hospital. They said I was not able to care for the kids. And although the kids were never alone with me, I was at my parents' house and they were under their care. I got intimidated and did not take it to a full-blown trial. I just accepted the neglect, and it was agreed that the neglect would drop after 15 months. And so now it's been sealed and it's like it never happened legally. But that gave him enough leverage when we got to custody court a year into it to get primary sole custody of the kids.
So this is so important, ladies. I'm not sure why we're having this echo here. This is so important, ladies, why you need the group, because the group would have said, if Rachel had said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, they would have said, don't go without, your lawyer's permission, all of those kind of things that are really important. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? And so sometimes we do stuff in panic mode, which actually leads to such long-term consequences. Rachel, let me ask you one more question. Despite what your pastor was giving you permission to leave, so he was saying it was okay biblically, but there was something inside of your head that was still not in truth, right? What was that? Yeah. Do you know? Have you identified that?
Yeah, I think there might be a couple things. Number one is I think I was actually credentialed as a pastor as well, which I've let go since, but I was credentialed under the National Conservative Christian Church. And I feel like part of it for me was that I held so strongly to religious doctrine, like black and white in scripture, rather than, and that's what your program helped me do. It helped me look at scripture, base everything on scripture and prayer, of course. But to me, it was just too much of a black and white. It was like divorce is wrong unless he's cheating, and he's not cheating. So I have to live this life. This is what I'm called to, and I'm called to submission. So, part of it was me, mentally just, that's my bed. I made it. I have to sleep in it. And then I think part of it was my lack of, one of your things is the courageous commitment to truth. And I unfortunately denied to everyone, including my close inner circle, the reality of how harsh my life was. And then part of it, even mentally, the mental breakdown and the wear and tear through all those symptoms. Like, I can give you just a quick example, which was 3 months before this. I was visiting him because the kids and I had just moved out, and I was making a salad and cutting carrots, and he freaked out on me. I mean, cuss words, and because I was cutting the carrots straight, and he said the proper way was at an angle. And I had my brother and his wife over that night for dinner. And so he's freaking out. He walks in the other room and their jaw is open. And I'm just like, what? I'm sorry. I'm stupid. I didn't cut the carrots the right way. I should have known. So what are you doing tomorrow? And I'm just blabbering on. And it wasn't until about 4 months after my mental breakdown, like when my sister-in-law confronted me, that I could actually identify that scenario as unhealthy and not normal. So I think the chronicity of it kind of warped me mentally and tore me down.
Wow. So as you walk through the Conquer journey, what's been the most helpful thing for you?
Yeah, I love the networking with the Facebook. I love the ability to ask questions and get quick responses as I'm dealing with day-to-day issues throughout the time period. I really like the stability module when I first signed on, because I was still struggling with living without my children and knowing they weren't safe on a day-to-day basis. I was in counseling for the PTSD component. And so there was a lot of good pearls within the stability module. And then also kind of the second half of my recovery, the last year and a half, it's been that courageous commitment to truth, because even, continually he'll berate me and do things. And now I just have to act objectively, respond less emotionally, and not hide things or change it to support him, because I was doing that a lot. I was giving him excuses for his inappropriate behaviors.
Wow. Well, I'm going to let you go because there's this terrible echo and I'm not sure we're fixing it. I'm not sure. Martha's texting me and other people are texting me. I'm not sure what to do, but thank you so much, Rachel. Is there anything else that you want to share that if someone's sitting on the fence thinking, oh, I don't know, this might blow up my whole life. If I join and really do this courageously committed to truth, I don't want to end up divorced. I don't want to end up having to go to custody court. I don't want to end up with this mess. I don't want to have a breakdown. I'm scared to even face this truth. What would you say to her?
Yeah. Well, number one is listen to your inner spirit and really strip away the fear and be courageous. And if the Lord does tell you to leave, I think you should follow through with that. God can do anything. And I think also having a support network, a very, Christian-based 1 or 2 people you can trust and talk intimate details as you make that decision.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks.
All right. I'm not sure what was going on with sound, but sound and tech and me, and I'm afraid to press any buttons. So we're good. And we've got our next guest. But how was that for you? How was that for you to hear someone who has been there and she got the support, she got the information, she implemented it. She's in a much better place. It doesn't mean her kids are in a better place. And this is why we don't want you to wait. When I first started Conquer, I started attracting women who were in their 50s because they had been married 30 years and they realized nothing's going to change. I've done all the praying. I've done all the begging. I've done all the yelling. I'm having a breakdown. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my health. Now we're starting to attract women who are younger, who have only been married 10 years, who've only been married 5 years. And they're saying, I don't want to end up like her. I don't want I don't want to end up waiting 30 years and nothing has changed. And now my kids are messed up. Now my health is damaged. Now my reputation is down the tubes because I pretended so long that everything was fine and it wasn't, that even my own family doesn't believe me and my own family sides with him. And they don't want that to happen. They see it. And this is not a bad thing that you see it. And so for those of you who are younger here and you're saying, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. We're not asking you to make a decision to leave. There are many women in Conquer who choose to stay and they figure out how to make that happen in a healthy way. But what you do have to do is you have to start by doing your own work, by you getting healthy, by you saying, whatever's going on here is really toxic. And by me being complicit with the toxic environment, I'm actually helping it. So I'm going to change my dance steps. I can't fix him. I don't want to scold him anymore. I don't want to yell at him like, why can't you change? Please change. Please get it. We do that for a long time. And finally, I come to say, he's not interested in changing. So what if I change? What if I start eating? If we just take an eating thing. Let's say both of you are overweight and he doesn't want to change the eating habits. You say, you know what? I'm going to change. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to go to the gym. He can still eat Doritos and Coke if he wants to, or beer, whatever he does. That's his decision. But I'm going to eat healthy. And you start eating healthy, right? Well, one of two things are going to happen. He's going to make fun of you and shame you or escalate things because you're getting healthy and he's not. Or he's going to say, oh, I want some of that. That looks good. You look healthier. You look stronger. I want some of that. Right? So sometimes that happens in Conquer. As you do your work, the other person begins to recognize that it might be better to be healthy. Things might go better if you're healthy in your life. And sometimes they get just envious and jealous and insecure and more oppressive. And so we don't know what will happen. You don't know the outcome. What we do know is that it's God's will for you to mature and live a holy life. It is God's will for you to grow. It is God's will for you to be healthy. And so take that first step and say, okay, God, I know it's not your will for me to have a mental breakdown because I'm suffering in this marriage. I know it's not your will for me to financially bankrupt our family because I'm not stewarding our resources and my husband's not either. It's not your will that I let my children be taught such erroneous things by their father that are not true about women, about God, about life. That's not good. So I'm going to have to do my part to get healthy, to right the system on my end. And if he squashes that or gets more dangerous or more oppressive, then I know I can't do this. If he doesn't, then maybe I can make a difference and I can not change him, but I can breathe some fresh life into this air, the stale air in our home that may create some new opportunities for growth for him, or maybe new ways of looking at things. So we're not trying harder to get him to change. I want you to understand that's not going to work. If I just love him more, pray for him more, submit more, comply more, pray, do all the right things that everybody tells you to do, he's going to change. That's not true. What I'm saying is, if you have a different goal, not getting him to change, but my goal is to get healthy and strong. And that's our best chance. Over the years, and I've been doing this for a number of years, over the years, I've had a couple men, not a lot, maybe 10, come up to me at different conferences I've done, different churches I've spoken at. And they've come up to me and they said, and they're with their wife and they say, thank you. And I say, tell me more. And they say, you helped my wife get strong enough to kick me out of the house. I would have never changed had she not gotten stronger. I have never had a man say to me, thank you for keeping my wife weak. It doesn't help him and it doesn't help her. As she gets stronger and she gets strong enough to say, I'm not living like this. So you decide whether you want to be a healthy man or you want to continue to be a porn addict or you want to continue to be a liar. That's your choice. I can't change you, but I'm not living like this. When you get strong enough to actually say that and mean it, That's a huge wake-up call for him. And sometimes that's the only wake-up call he'll listen to. But I promise you, if you just continue to be compliant, it works for him. He gets his cake and eats it too. He can be a lousy husband and still get all the perks of marriage. And that I don't think is biblical. All right. I am going to check my Martha. I can't, my computer keeps turning off. So I'm not hearing, I know you're texting me, but my text is not coming through my phone. So I'm not sure what's going on with you. So I'm not sure if you're trying to communicate something to me that I'm not reading, but I can't. So text Howard and maybe he can text me, but I don't see any questions on our feed. So I'm just going to keep moving forward and assume that things are okay. All right. So I'm going to add you, Tammy. Tammy is going to come and talk with us. And Tammy is learning to stay well in her marriage. So welcome, Tammy. Hi.
Hi, Leslie.
So good to see you.
Good to be here.
Tell us a little bit about how long you've been in Conquer.
I've been in Conquer for, I think, 4 years. And what happened is I read your book, and for the first time, my eyes were opened. And I heard about Conquer then, and I joined, and I was all in. I could not believe that I saw other people were experiencing what I was experiencing. And it took a weight off of me because I thought I was the only one. For some reason, I thought I was the only one. And I found out I wasn't the only one. So it was very empowering.
Yeah, it is, because it's like I'm a bad wife, or I've done something wrong. And then when you begin to see that, you're not, and that you're not alone, and that there's other women who are in this situation as well, then it feels very empowering to know that you have a community of women who get it, who get how hard this is.
Right.
So what was going on in your marriage that brought you to Conquer?
So it was in 2012, 2011. I was in a deep valley. Things really escalated. It just got really bad. And I went to my church for help. And I was re-traumatized by going to church. And I have to say, this is part of my journey, just speaking out now about it. I'm still at that church and I love my church. But at the time, it was really an awful time for me. No one understood me. No one believed me. And I just didn't know what to do. I was told that I was sinning, that I was bad mouthing, I was judging, I had an argumentative spirit, a controlling spirit, and that I needed to sacrifice myself for the well-being of my marriage.
That's a common piece of advice that a lot of women get. Just die to yourself. Tammy, don't, why are you worrying about yourself getting stronger? Why are you worried about yourself doing the right? You need to sacrifice yourself and die to yourself and suffer for Jesus in order to stay married. What do you believe now? Or what have you learned through Conquer about that?
Well, what I found out was that going to more Bible studies, praying harder, being better didn't make him better. And what I learned in Conquer is that I needed to work on myself instead of trying to rationalize with him and others to get things right and see things the way I think they should be. And, Conquer, I watched your videos, I journaled, I put my work in, I devoted hours and hours and hours to it. And I have journals that I wrote in. I have 4 of them from your videos, and I would copy down points, and I just kept praying and quit listening to everyone else and did my own work.
And so what was the work that you did? What was some of the things that you had to learn about you, or had to learn about what God was saying to you, and not just what your husband was saying to you?
Right. So I learned that I had to shut out all the other voices. It didn't matter who it was. There was someone that had another opinion, and I had to figure this out for myself. And I got to a point where I said, okay, God, this is me and you. Steer me in the right direction. And that's why I knew that what you were teaching in the Conquer videos and what I was hearing from others was just empowering for me, and knowing I can't change another person. I cannot change another person, and I can only change myself. And that's what I did.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I love that you're saying this, Tammy, and I would just like to confirm this to the audience that somebody just wrote on the Conquer Facebook feed last night, I wish Leslie would just tell me what to do, and so, I don't do that, because part of the empowerment is you need to think through this stuff for yourself. You need to face the reality and look at your options and understand what all that looks like, and do the work of making a decision, a grown-up decision, because this is your life, right? And that's part of your work to do.
And some of the things that I did was I started college for the first time ever 2 years ago, and I'm going full time, and I want to help other women. I now have a support group that I lead, helping other women, and I just let go of all the other voices and only listen to God and listen to things that are going to empower me. And it's just been great. I'm doing the best I've ever done in my entire life. And yet a lot of my circumstances haven't changed.
So what's going on in your marriage? So you're staying well. We call that staying well.
Yes,
so it doesn't mean your marriage is getting any better. What does that look like?
No, it's not. But I learned how to detach. And so that means now I had to grieve that this marriage is not what I dreamed it would be. It is not what I wanted. I had to tell myself that this is the truth, and accepting the truth is extremely hard. Saying, okay, this other person actually is choosing to, maybe not call and come home really late or drink or whatever it is. That person is choosing it. And now what is my role in this? And so I would take each situation and go, okay, before I used to complain and say, do this, do that, and it never worked. So now I step back and I go, well, that's what he chooses to do. And I'm going to take care of the kids and myself. And that's what I do. I completely detach. I don't allow myself to react anymore, because I used to be so angry, and I'm not angry anymore. I can step back and I can watch what's happening and know that I can still honor God in what I'm doing.
This is so important for our listeners, because we so want him to get it. We so want him to change. We so want to have the kind of marriage we want to have, that sometimes we can be critical or harsh or complaining or judgmental ourselves. And I think when we talk about detachment in Conquer, it's not, I don't give a rip about you anymore. That's not what we're talking about. We're detaching from our idea of how our marriage needed to look. We're detaching from our need for him to love us in order for us to feel lovable and okay. We're detaching from some of the beliefs that we had about our role to make this all work and make him love us, and I'm unlovable if he doesn't. We're detaching from some of those wrong beliefs, because in core, we're courageously committed to the truth, and we're going to take responsibility for ourselves. And so what you're doing is amazing, because you're saying, I've learned what I can live with and what I can't live with, and I can live with this. I can't live with that. But I don't expect him to change or have this great connection together.
Nope. No, I've learned to share my feelings and my thoughts with people who I call they're safe. And he's not safe. And I don't mean that in a physical way, but I mean that he's not safe. He really doesn't want to hear my feelings and my thoughts. And I've accepted that. That was the biggest step for me, because that's telling myself the truth. He does not want to hear that. That's hard to accept, because why would someone marry you if they don't want to hear about your life or want to submit to one another? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And no, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
They say sin is insanity, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. But yet we do it. So how is he seeing the new you?
Well, a lot of things have changed. We don't really communicate. So I don't really know how he feels.
Okay. So you sort of live like roommates, like strangers in the same house.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
share certain resources and you share certain responsibilities. But
Right.
you don't really have a relationship.
No relationship. And there's not a whole lot of fighting either. It's just roommates. And I'm assuming that's what he wanted all along. I think that's what he wanted. There's not a whole lot of fighting if I'm not, making all these demands and expectations. I've completely let go. And now he gets to be the man he's always wanted to be. He gets to be that. I'm not in the way anymore. He can't point the finger at me.
This is so important, ladies, because it's like once we let someone be who they want to be, because it's one thing, like when we're talking to you, ladies, you don't want to be, at least you wouldn't be on my side if you wanted to be an angry, ugly, bitter, rabble-rousing woman. That's not who you want to be. Now, you might be acting like that right now because you're so upset and so discouraged and so angry, but inside you're saying, I don't want to be like that. But when a man says, I'm fine being a couch potato, I'm fine not showing any care for my wife, I'm fine with the way things are, you're not going to change that. That's what we talked about in our webinar. How will you know someone's really changing? Because they want to. Because they don't want to be that way. That's why women join Conquer, because they don't want to be this way anymore. They don't want to be so passive. They don't want to be so angry. They want to be different. Your husband needs to want to be different, not just, oh, I don't want you to leave me, but I want to be different. And so Tammy's learned this powerful secret. If you choose to stay well, and sometimes there's a benefit to staying well. Marriage isn't always just about a great, loving, romantic relationship. Sometimes it's just about security and stability and safety for your family. And so for now, you have the security, stability, and safety with your family without the two of you arguing all the time. And you having the freedom to go college and develop your life and do what you want to do. And there's nobody nagging you that you can't do it or oppressing you. So you have the freedom to do that as long as you don't require him to be something he doesn't want to be. He's not inhibiting you from being something you want to be, right?
Right.
And that's the crux of learning to stay well if you choose to. It's not staying well so that he changes. It's staying well that I don't have a nervous breakdown, but I'm free now to do what God calls me to do.
Right.
Yeah. How are your children?
Actually, my children are doing great. And it's a miracle. I think that I just really tried so hard. And I know that it's not always that way. I know that. And a lot of times it's not always the wife's fault either. But I just feel very blessed. My kids are doing great. I have ages 10 to 27 years old. And I feel very blessed for where I'm at now, even though my dream did not get fulfilled the way I wanted it to, but I'm okay.
Janice wants to know if you're leaving someday.
I can't answer that right now. I'm taking one day at a time.
And you'll find that often in Conquer, that one day at a time, because if he starts escalating in his behaviors that are more dangerous or destructive to her, then she'll have to make a different decision, right? Yes. Or once her children are grown and things get, he gets more demanding or whatever he might get, things might be different. So I think nothing is permanent. We live each day as we make decisions based on the evidence we have, for the patterns that we see. And so those are the patterns she's seeing right now are it's livable. Her children are thriving. She's able to thrive. And so she doesn't have a great marriage, but doesn't mean she has a ruined life. Right. And I think this is the idolatry of marriage. If I don't have a great marriage, like Leah, I will die. No, you won't. No, you won't. Marriage isn't meant to fulfill you and define you. Marriage is something you might want and something you can have. And sometimes you get a good one and sometimes you don't. And you have to decide now how you're going to handle that. How come you've decided to stay at the same church? Tell me how they've grown through this, or have they?
They have grown. I lead a support group at that same church now, helping other ladies. And I wasn't pushing my belief on them. I had to get myself well for them to listen to me. And when I was going to them 10 years ago, I was a hot mess. I was angry. I looked like the abusive one. And so I knew I had to do something different. And I did my work. And then when I got myself healthy, that's when they were in a place, I believe, to listen. And I know that doesn't always happen. That doesn't mean that churches automatically listen, but I am at a place now where they're allowing me to help other people. And I feel just very blessed that I decided to stick it out because it was rough and just continued to work on myself.
Yeah. Tammy, we have a couple other questions. What do your kids think of your marriage? Do you guys talk about that at all?
Ooh, good questions. Well, I have some adult kids and we do talk about it a little bit, but not a whole lot. This isn't their business, but I do. If there is anything that's talked about, it's just stating facts. That's it. This happened. And that's it, with no emotion. I don't need to get angry. It's just a fact. They don't need to know the ins and outs of everything. So I do my best just to be the best mom that I can be.
Is he involved as a dad?
Yes, less and less as time goes on. Again, because I've stepped out of the way and he gets to be who he wants to be.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes we are trying to help him be a better dad too.
Yeah.
And when we stop doing that, let him be the dad he wants to be.
Yes.
He's checked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one other question, Mindy wants to know, is this a disappointing marriage now or not a destructive one?
Oh, no, it's still destructive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm safe. That is number one. There are certain things I won't tolerate anymore. I have strong boundaries. I'm left alone. And that's what I need to happen. So I take one day at a time. I don't know what the future holds. I really don't. And it can change.
Yeah. How are you handling things so you're financially safe?
Well, because of technology, it has helped with me having access to money more than I did 20 years ago. And I don't have, everything is not perfect. I don't have control over everything, but I've found different ways. So I'm doing the best that I can, but I have to let a lot of things go. That's the part of the detaching.
Yeah. Teresa says, are the kids seeing a terrible example of marriage? What do you think?
Absolutely. Yes.
And so what does that bother you? Is that something that?
Nope. I'm just doing the best that I can do in this situation. And my adult children are in very healthy marriages. And I have younger ones, and no, I wouldn't say that they're not seeing a good example, but I can't control everything. I can only control me, and I can still be a good mom to them, even when they see something unhealthy.
Yeah. And I think this is really important, ladies, that research has shown that kids actually do best with their two biological parents in a family, as long as there's not a lot of emotional turmoil that create fear in them, right? So if parents can live somewhat peaceably, and I think that's what you're trying to do, Tammy, is to say, as long as I don't make any demands on him, and as long as I've detached from any expectation of a close, caring relationship, we seem to be able to live somewhat peaceably most of the time. So the kids aren't in danger. They don't see an active, loving couple, no, but they're not living in fear and turmoil either. So I think those are the payoffs. Those are the hard decisions. So here's what it makes my ministry different than a lot of other ministries that you'll see, that it's not just you that you have to consider. It is your children's well-being. And is their well-being better off right now, stable in a family, in a home where you can go to school and you're not having to work full time so that you can support them. And so she's preparing for her life so that if some point she has to support herself or her kids, she can, but she's using these years to be able to do that in a better economic way, and detaching. And her kids can see, and if her kids ask, yeah, we don't have a great marriage. Dad isn't, that involved. And I've let go of expecting that. When you can say those facts instead of just reacting all the time, kids are like, oh, I don't want that kind of marriage for me. So they're learning the difference between healthy and unhealthy, even in a calmer way, but they still may thrive better in an environment where they have that stability than they would in an environment where neither parent is there because Tammy's having to work full time and her kids are alone all the time. And so those are the trade-offs that you have to decide, but this is what we help you to think through and conquer. We help you to look at this. It's not just about, I'm unhappy, so I need to leave. If I'm not happy, nobody's happy. You're happy. You're just not happily married. And there is a difference. Tammy is happy. She's thriving. She's got ministry. She's got purpose. She feels good about herself. She's growing. Is she happily married? No, but she's not in danger and she's not in, under a lot of stress that way. And so she can thrive and be happy as a person, and her kids see that. And that's not a bad thing. Anything that you want to add to that, Tammy?
I just can't say enough about Conquer. If you're on the fence about joining, join. There are ways to I know sometimes we're in a deep valley. I've been there. And my life now is going to be about helping other women. I know that's what God's called me to do. That's the good that came out of what's happened to me. And I'm still married. And so we have to let go of some of these things that we idolize, maybe, that I needed to have a good marriage. I needed to have everything turn out the way I wanted, and it didn't. And as soon as I could accept the truth, then I could put on my big girl pants, and now what am I going to do? And so here I am.
Your story is inspiring. And I think of that. I don't know how many of you watched American Idol this year. I don't hardly watch it, but Night Birdie was a contestant. She was a Liberty University student, or not student, but she had been a student. Beautiful woman, beautiful voice. And she has very serious cancer. She had to drop out because I don't know that she's going to survive, 30 years old. But she said something very powerful that brought Simon Cowell to tears. She goes, I had to learn that I had to stop waiting for life to be perfect or not to be hard anymore in order for me to be happy. So here's this beautiful 30-year-old woman whose husband left her when she had cancer. She's a Christian woman. I think she lost a baby. She's got terminal cancer. I mean, life has not been easy for her. And she said, I learned that I have to stop waiting for life to stop being hard in order for me to start being happy. I can be happy in hard. I can learn to thrive in hard. And I think that's what you've done too, is to say, I don't have a happy marriage, but I can be a happy person. And I think this is the difference when we talk in our Conquers about the internal story and the external story. So Tammy's external story is one part of her life is not great, marriage, but other parts of her life, her relationship with her children, her schooling, her ministry are great. Her health is good. She's thriving mentally. She's better than she's ever been. Okay, so this part of her story isn't what she wanted to be. How many of us have a perfect story all the way around on every set that everything's looking great? But can we still be happy? Can we still trust God? Can we still find purpose and meaning? Joseph did, even while he was in jail. He was the leading right-hand person to the jail guard. Can you still be healthy and happy? And that's what we want to help you do and conquer so that you can make the best decision for you and your children. Thanks, Tammy. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to let you go, and we're going to have another Conquer sister come up. All right, so hold on, and we're going to invite Dana to come forward. Hey, Dana, how are you?
Hi. Great to be with you, Leslie.
Yeah, so good to see you again. Tell us how long you've been in Conquer.
I've been in Conquer about 2.5 years now. But interestingly, I joined Conquer after my divorce was final.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one that was just curious to keep growing, curious to keep learning about my journey and what I'd gone through and what I'd just been through, because it had been a whirlwind. Mm-hmm. And I just joined for a month, and I was just going to get all that I could and make a bunch of copies of all your transcripts and get as much information as I could. And I'm still here 2.5 years later. There's just a lot of good information. And it's not just information, it's community, it's growth, it's encouragement to thrive. And that's why I continue to be in Conquer.
Well, thank you. We don't get a lot of that as women, do we? Sometimes we just get encouragement to do our role, wife, mom, do our role, wife, mom. But we don't get a lot of encouragement to thrive in the Christian community.
To thrive and grow and to become our true authentic self. And that's key.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what your marriage was like and why you decided to get divorced as a Christian. How was that for you?
Well, I realized that I was in a destructive relationship. And so I sought some godly counsel. And that's when I heard about your book, The Emotionally Destructive Marriage. And honestly, Leslie, you don't promote your book enough, but that was the catalyst to me opening my eyes to truth. And I didn't know that there was Conquer. I hadn't found you on Facebook. So I found your book, and I highlighted so much that I typed out all my highlights and have 25 typewritten pages of notes from your book. So that became my manual. That became my Conquer manual for growth until I found Conquer. And then I was like, oh, I can step up from here. I can go even further. There's more. And like I said, I've been here 2.5 years later and still growing, and still awakening, and still opening my eyes to more and more and more. But what I'm also learning is that domestic abuse often intensifies in frequency and severity over time. So what starts as just one of those things that you go, that just didn't set right. And but it doesn't. You just you forgive, you forget, you go on. But over time, it starts becoming more frequent. And then it starts becoming more severe. And then after a while, it's chronic. And then after that, it's destructive. And then it's demeaning. And then it becomes maybe violent. And then so it escalates over time until you don't even know how you got here. You don't even know what happened, because there was not one thing. It wasn't one action. It wasn't one incident. It was something over a long period of time. And women, unless you are studied in these things, you don't know what's happening to you. And I grew up in a great family, in a great home. We didn't have deal with mental illness or abuse. And so I was very ignorant about the abuse cycle. And I finally opened my eyes to truth. And then you have some hard choices to make, right? As we say in
Was there
Conquer,
anything besides the book that opened your eyes? Was there anything besides, you said you started to feel something like you went to your counselor and your eyes began to open. Was it hard for you to see it? Was it hard for you to admit that this wasn't just normal, this was abusive?
The day that I walked into my counselor's office, I said, I've been praying for a day of courage. I saw truth, but I didn't know if I was willing to confront truth. And the way we say it in Conquer, and the way have heard you say it a lot of times, Leslie, is, are you willing to change the dance? I knew the dance was destructive. I just didn't know if I had the courage to change the dance. And I think that Conquer helped me, along with my counselor, to get the courage and the fortitude to change the dance.
And so what was your first dance step that you changed? Do you remember?
Confronting truth. Confronting truth. Seeing the truth and confronting the truth, I've learned, are two totally different things. And I didn't know if I could confront the truth in an appropriate way. Like, what I'm learning is you can confront truth being respectful and being honest and being truthful and still establish healthy boundaries. And when I learned that I can be respectful and speak my piece with respect and truth and ask for what I need, that's okay. But I also knew that would be tipping over the first of many dominoes. And I think that a lot of women are in the same situation. Are you willing to tip over that first domino to change? Because that domino tips over the next domino, that tips over the next domino. And if you look down the line, how many dominoes are going to fall? And where are these dominoes going to end? And where are you going to be when all those dominoes fall? And are you willing to let go of what you know and embrace a new truth and a new reality of what you don't know?
Yeah. And that's hard because sometimes even the pain that we're in is more tolerable than the pain of not knowing what we'll be in. And so we put up with stuff that we shouldn't be putting up with because we're afraid of the change or that we're afraid of the outcome. And I think that's why it's so important, ladies, that I think there's one place to look at the outcome, and that is, what's the worst thing that could happen? I think that's one place to look. So if I do nothing, what's the worst that could happen? And can I handle that? So if the worst that's going to happen is my husband's going to kill me, can I handle that? Well, yeah, but can my kids? Is that a good outcome? No, I better just start to, or is the worst that can happen, I get divorced. Okay, if I get divorced, can I handle that? No. Right. Well, if not, then what do I need to do to get ready to handle that? Because it could happen. It could happen to any one of us. So if I get cancer, can I handle that? Well, I don't want to get cancer, but if I get cancer, I'll handle it. Right. And so once we can kind of have this confidence that I can handle something, or I can learn to handle something, then we're not so afraid of it. It doesn't become the boogeyman in our life anymore to start tipping a domino. But I think you're so wise, Dana, when you say the first domino is this. And I think this is, I just want to give a bit of instruction here. We learned this in Conquer, but when you begin to speak up, like when Dana changed what she was going to say, so often what we start to do, like Tammy was doing, is you need to change. You're narcissistic. You need counseling. You need help. Something's wrong with you. And of course, most people get very defensive to that. And so there's just this crazy making conversation. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. Are you PMSing? What's wrong with you? You're crazy. And it's like you. Change the conversation. And you said it really well, Dana, to an I conversation. I don't like this. This won't work for me. I'm not willing to do this anymore. I don't feel safe with this. And that's the first domino. Boing. I'm speaking up for myself. And the second domino will fall if he says, too bad, you don't matter. And he won't say it that way. But if he says, I don't really give a rip about what you think, everything is all about me. And he'll say that in a number of ways, like, you're too sensitive, you're being crazy, no, you don't want that. Like when you say, no, I don't want this. And he goes, oh, yes, you do. He's denying your reality. He's denying your voice. Well, that's the second, third, fourth domino that start to fall over. But if you say, I don't like that, stop it, and someone stops it, well, then that just changed the dance, didn't it? Because you put up with something that you never said, I don't like this. Don't do it. Right? I don't like you tickling me, or I don't like you touching me that way. Or I don't like grabbing my boob. Right? Instead of saying, oh, get away from me, you pervert. If you just say, I don't like this, what's their next step? It tells you something. And that's how you begin to take this journey, one step at a time. So what happened? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, a lot of us get into a martyr mentality. And I kind of was, I call it pride. I don't know if pride is the right word, but I was willing to tolerate, and I was willing to overfunction because I didn't want to confront truth. And so I became a self-imposed martyr for my family, and I felt good about it. And I think that sometimes as Christian women, we kind of tend to get into, maybe not intentionally, and maybe we're not taught this in the church, but we sort of embrace this, I need to put myself under. And yes, we should submit, but when it becomes destructive to your person, right? When that overfunctioning becomes detrimental to your womanhood, and you don't have any energy, you don't have any life, then something needs to change. But hopefully there's somebody else out there like me who kind of embraced this self-martyrdom, this self-imposed martyrdom for your family. And I'm here to tell you that that's not God's intention in marriage. Unfortunately, we're not taught a lot about biblical marriage these days. But we would do well to do a little bit of study for ourselves.
Ahead of time. Yeah. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I do think that so often we sort of take the hero, shiro, I'm going to be the shiro, the savior of my children, of my husband, of my family. And we act, and if you do that in a righteous way, like let's say the house is on fire and you run in to try to save them, that's one thing, right? Because they're, sick in bed, or they can't get out of bed themselves, or they're little and they couldn't possibly do it themselves. But when you're the shiro and you believe that it's your job to martyr yourself so that other people can stay dysfunctional and sinful, that's a really wrong teaching. And so self-sacrifice isn't an unbiblical idea. Jesus says, greater man has no one that you lay down your life for your friend. But be sure, if you're laying down your life for your friend, it's for a good purpose for your friend. If you're giving your kidney to your friend so that they can get off of dialysis, okay, well, that's a sacrificial love. That's a dying to yourself and saying, I'm willing to put myself at risk to help you. But when someone is, just being abusive and destructive, and you're enabling that by overfunctioning. So if your kid is lazy and they're not doing their homework, and you overfunction and do their homework for them so they don't get a bad grade, or your husband's spending tons of money on, man toys or pornography, and so you go work and make money to pay the bills, are you not just enabling this dysfunction to continue? Right. And saying, I'm being the shiro, I'm being the savior of my family, and feeling good about yourself, when actually you're enabling the dysfunction to continue.
And I think that's something I learned in Conquer, is when sometimes the light switch goes off in your brain when you realize these new truths. And when I heard you talk about overfunctioning, the light went off. I'm like, oh, there it is. Guilty, and I felt good about it. I was a chronic enabler of chronic withdrawal, of bad behavior, of, all kinds of crazy making and unhealthy behavior. And I saw it. And I knew the truth, but I wasn't willing to confront the truth because I didn't have the tools, and out of fear, and out of fear for safety, and all kinds of things that can keep you from confronting truth, and for changing the dance steps, or for tipping over that first domino.
Yeah.
But what I'm realizing, Leslie, is truth may be hurtful, and truth may be ugly, and truth may lurk in the shadows, and you may not see it clearly. But if we will lean into the pain of truth and our experience, truth will always lead you to freedom. And Jesus said that, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Living in truth will bring freedom. That doesn't make
what's your life like now? Yeah, what's your life like? You were so afraid of this domino effect, and all the dominoes fell over. Your marriage ended, and what's life like for now? Is the worst thing happening? The thing that you feared the most?
It was a very painful process. It was a long, drawn out, painful, punishing process. On the other side of truth is freedom. I'm becoming my true, authentic self, Leslie. I am growing in God. I'm flourishing. It doesn't make it easy. It's hard. Living in truth can be hard. And confronting your truth and your reality can be very hurtful and painful. But truth always leads you to freedom. And it's leading me straight into God's call for my life. It's leading me straight into my true, authentic self. Things that I had squashed, things that I'd forgotten that I love, things that were diminished in me are now flourishing again. And you start this rediscovery of, who am I? Who did God make me to be? And what is my role in my children's life and in my world and in my community and in my home and in the school and those kinds of things. You know, you're able to flourish and grow if you can lean into that truth and let it bring you to freedom.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So good. So good. Thank you so much for sharing, Dana. We've had some comments, and, you know, Helen Marie says that, you know, she tried the I statements with her husband and he didn't care. And that's good information for you. But see, when you keep your side of the street clear and you made clear, respectful conversation or communication starters, this doesn't work for me, I don't like this, and they completely ignore you or discount you or dismiss you or demean you or degrade you, that tells you something. So then the next domino needs to go down, right? If they hear you, then that's different. So that's where Jesus says, if someone sins against you, go to them, talk to them, tell them you don't like it. And if they hear you, you've won your brother. But if they don't hear you, all right, there's people who will not hear you. People did not hear Jesus. So don't hear me say these are magic words that you can say to, you know, get your husband to do what you want him to do. What I'm saying is, as you get healthy and you learn to speak up for yourself, you speak up for yourself. You don't speak against someone else. And whether you're in a friendship with someone, you're in a marriage with someone, or even with your kids, you speak about yourself versus being critical and condemning and judgmental of someone else. Just being able to, I think it was Tammy who said, I let my husband be who he wanted to be. And I stopped criticizing and judging him for who he decided to be, even though I don't like it. I still don't like it, but I'm not going to change him. And I think this is really, really important. I think this is important if you want to grow to be healthy and strong, which is what you're learning to do, Dana, and all of you are learning to do, me too, of how do I get to be the kind of woman that I am proud of? Because the person ultimately that I always have to live with is me. And I want to show up in a way that does my Father proud and makes me feel good about me, even if other people don't respond well.
I think you just touched on something very important, and that is I can honor God and honor myself and honor my family and still be divorced.
Yeah.
And that was something that I had to wrestle with. Can I honor God and be divorced? Can I honor my family? Can I honor my marriage and get divorced? And something that you just touched on, and I call it staying in my lane. I need to stay in my lane, right? Mm-hmm. I need to keep my side of the street clean. So I'm accountable for me and my words, my actions, my thoughts. So I'm going to stay in my lane. I can't control what the other person does. I can't control how they respond or react. But if I can live in truth and reality, confront things in a respectful way, I may not get what I want, right? But I can stay in my lane. And those reactions from the other side or from your children, you know, are the street signs in staying in your lane. They show you where you are. And, you know, you may be going in the wrong direction. You may need to turn around. You may need to stop. You know, you may need to fly forward. It just, you know, I'm a word picture girl. So everything for me is a word picture. But staying in your lane and looking at those street signs about how others react to your new boundaries is a sign to you. Mm-hmm. It's a sign to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to share? How was your church with all of this?
Well, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
That wasn't on the list, but I thought I would ask.
we were both on staff at the same church, and that's how we met. And so he's still on staff at that church. When I became a mom, I got promoted, and I decided to stay with my kids and be a full-time mom. So I no longer work at that church, but was part of that congregation. But I decided that it would just be awkward, and I didn't want to invade and make things awkward for him. So I chose to leave and find a new congregation, which has been fine, a journey, but fine. So, you know, you were asking any final comments. What I'd like to say about Conquer is that it's more than just a membership site. It's more than just a Conquer journey where you go through a course, an online course, and then call it done. Like I said, that's what I thought it was. And I'm like, oh, I can do this in a month. You know, I'll pay my subscription fee and get all that I can. And then be done in a short amount of time. And I've been here 2.5 years later because of the wealth in the community. And what I'd like to say just real briefly is, if you have cancer, you need some quick relief, right? Or if you're in pain, you need some quick relief. So the best thing to do is to go to your doctor and get the diagnosis, right? And have them give you the first steps of what you need to do. And that's what the Conquer journey is. It's that quick, you need to do this right now. This is your detox, right? And then there's a whole library of resources for you in addition. And that's where you get your education, right? So whatever is your illness, whatever it's called, you can find it in this encyclopedia of information for you. And then the third leg of the chair of Conquer is the Conquer phone calls. If you have a specific burning question you need to ask Leslie Vernick, you can get on a Conquer phone call and you can ask her your question and get it answered. And then the fourth leg of the chair is the Facebook community, where you are getting encouraged and, we walk alongside one another. We encourage one another. We can do this together. The community is very valuable. So there's the Conquer Journey course. There's the library of information. There's the one-on-one Conquer phone call. And there's the community. And so that's why I've been here so long. Is because it's not a one and done thing. It's not something you can do in a week or a month. You can be in Conquer for 1 month, 2 months, and be done. And you will get a lot out of it. But, there are some of us that are lifers, and for good reason, because there is a wealth of information and community in Conquer, and I'd encourage you to join.
Well, thank you so much, Dana. So appreciate your sharing and just talking to you a little bit about your story. And it's just so encouraging to me that, that women are growing and learning and giving back to other women. And, you're not done with your growing, but you're also giving back and you're sharing with others your journey. And I think, last year I went hiking with Leanne and Jessica. We climbed Camelback Mountain, and these women, I never climbed that. That was my second time hiking in my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had known it would be this hard, I would never have done it. But Jessica is like 30 and, Leanne's younger than me. And so I'm just like following their footsteps. And it was such a good illustration for me of Conquer that I would have never climbed that mountain if I weren't with those girls. And so you might be watching this and you're thinking, I just can't do this. This is so scary, so hard. Of course it is. Of course it is. That's why you shouldn't do it by yourself. That's why you do need that community. That's why you do need this help. And that's why we made Conquer open and available. And we do this twice a year so that we can then develop those relationships and build that strength into you so that we have time to work on that. We're not just constantly, doing these kind of Facebook Lives and all that kind of stuff. We need to focus now our attention on those women who have joined to really help them. So thanks so much for being with me and sharing, and appreciate you.
You're welcome, Leslie.
All right,
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Bye-bye. All right. So ladies, do you have questions about Conquer? I have a couple minutes before Linda comes on. Do you have questions about Conquer? Conquer isn't just one thing. It's a number of things. And again, like Dana said, you can jump in for a month and download that workbook and watch all the videos you want to watch. You can do that. But it's like trying to drink the encyclopedia from a fire hose. It's not a whole lot's not going to stick because we're just not wired that way. Just like you can join the gym for a month and you can do exercising every day for 30 days. But probably if you actually do that, you're not going to want to quit. You're going to want to keep going because you're going to see the results. You're going to say, oh my gosh, I feel healthier and stronger and I want to be here and continue this work. And so we just encourage you. Conquer is our lowest cost entry-level place where you're going to get information in a deeper way than you get here in these Facebook Lives, in a more private way. Sometimes there's some questions. And so let me just go over a little bit about what's involved, okay? Do you have to be on Facebook? No. but Facebook is where our secret Facebook page is. And so we have 2 secret Facebook pages, one for new Conquer members who join right now, because we want you to meet each other before you get funneled into the bigger group, because this group is about, well, it was 500 as of today. That's a lot of new people to meet. That's a lot of new faces to be acquainted. But our other Conquer group, our regular Conquer group, is even bigger than that. So if all of you new people came into that big group, it would feel overwhelming. So we don't want that to happen. But you're going to join the Facebook group if you want to. But if not, please join the community groups that we're starting next week, because we're going to get together in groups of 24, not 500. And we're going to break you out into small rooms so that you can, how fun was it to meet these people today and just hear their story and realize, oh my gosh, she's beautiful, she's talented, she's resourceful, she's smart, she's like me, I'm not such a loser, right? And so we want you to join these community groups next week so that you can understand our culture, get a sip of what's going on and not feeling like you're drinking from a fire hose. And that's going to be on Zoom. So that's not going to be on Facebook. You don't have to join Facebook to be on these community groups. We want you to get acquainted with one another. Monday morning, or Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, we're going to do our Conquer phone call. We do these twice a month. I will be on our Conquer phone call. That's on Zoom. So you don't have to be on Facebook, but you do have to know how to get on some of these things. And we want to help you. We have tech people who will help you. When you join Conquer, you'll get videos on how to do that. So our Conquer phone calls are on Zoom. We are going to have some Zumba parties this year in Conquer, where we just do nothing but hang out and talk and have fun. Right? And get to know each other. So you don't have to be on Facebook if you're Facebook opposed right now. We are looking into building a whole new site next year. Our website is being redone this year, but next year for Conquer, and hopefully put a Conquer feed in that private site, not on Facebook at all, but that's not for next year. But we do have a pretty robust community in our Facebook group. So Facebook is an option if you want more community and connection, for sure. But you can also get some community and connection in the Zoom calls, because we do those twice a month. And we're going to do some Zumba parties. And so those will be ways that you can also build community connection. The third way that you can build community connection without Facebook is that whenever I travel, I put on the Facebook page, or I'll say in the Conquer phone call, or we'll put it on, the email. Hey, like Minnesota, Leslie's going to be speaking in Minnesota on October 23rd. Those Conquer sisters who want to meet her, I'm flying purposely in early. I'm flying in earlier than I would need to have dinner with you guys, because I want to meet you. And the host of the event is having us at her house for dinner. And this is going to be lovely, because we can be in a private space. We can be as loud as we want to be. And we don't have to, sit at this big table. We can get up and walk around and get to know each other. And this is crucial for you to have that support and encouragement, especially when things go south. We've had Conquer sisters live with one another. We've had them support one another in other ways. We go hiking together. We do other things together. When you're in a community of Conquer sisters that you can meet with, there's a very powerful strength. The Bible says that a 3-strand cord is not easily broken, right? An old wise Jewish proverb says, sticks in a bundle are not easily broken, but sticks alone can be broken by a child. You do not want to be alone and be in a destructive marriage, because you're going to be fried in that situation by opposing people, by opposing church people, by your husband. And you need that support if you're going to learn to stand up for yourself and get strong and healthy for yourself and for your children. So we have a new guest that I would like to invite into our Conquer room, and that is Linda. And so she's here. And so I'm going to do that and then talk some more. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, Leslie.
So
I'm
good to
doing
see
good.
you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what was going on in your life. It seems like the first sign that you began to really become aware that was your body was breaking down.
Yeah, I did. I had a pretty much, I've been married 27 years, and I had some pretty big things that would occur in my body, and like blood clot. I had blood clots in my lungs. I had my adrenals were failing at one point. And I would go to the doctors, and she would ask me, is there any stress in your life? And I'd say, not more than usual. I'm married and got kids, life. So I never put 2 and 2 together. But I was having, throughout the marriage, what I did not understand, I was undergoing cyclical abuse, but to me, I didn't really know what that was. To me, abuse was, getting hit. So, my body was probably holding on to all that stress, you know, and it wasn't until year 24 of our marriage that the Lord revealed a secret pornography addiction. And when I confronted it, it had been going on the entirety of the marriage. And so I was absolutely shocked and traumatized. And, you know, we had served in ministry, done missions trips. We were really involved in leadership in our church. So there, you know, there was a lot of stuff, but God has been good. He's been walking me through it. You know, like we had to really go through some serious confrontation. I'm a confronter, so confrontation is not a problem for me. The problem is that my husband would not admit to any of the things that he was doing. So you can confront all you want. When a person's not ready to reveal their secrets, they'll just send you on a circular, you know, conversation. Lots of defensiveness that turned into really pretty ugly abuse episodes. So, and once again, I was raised to respect my husband, and with a lot of scripture that I would memorize that would tell me love keeps a record of no wrongs. So when I would find proof of something that I was suspecting financially wrong, unfortunately, when I would try to confront, even with proof, I would get nowhere. It would just go into a circular conversation and fighting, and just I would leave really confused and feeling like I was a terrible wife because I was accusing my husband of things, and I should be trusting my husband. And so those were all the thinkings of, you know, as a kid, I was trained to be that godly wife that respects and submits. So.
Yeah, you mentioned you had these limiting beliefs. And
Yes.
so the limiting belief was I should always trust, and I should always believe, and I should always endure and always hope. Those verses in 1 Corinthians 13 that we get fed. And I'm not diminishing those verses. They're great verses, but we can't just take those and create a whole, this is what you should do in all situations, because even the writer of those verses himself, the Apostle Paul, sort of kept a record of wrongs with John Mark and with Alexander the coppersmith, who did me great harm. Timothy, don't hang out with him. So somehow he didn't mean that we put our brains on the shelf and just forget that someone sinned against us or is not trustworthy. He didn't mean that. However, we've extrapolated that, especially for women, to believe that doesn't matter what your husband does, you somehow have to put your brains on the shelf and ignore that. What were some other limiting beliefs that you might have had, and how did you actually overcome them? Like, first, how did you recognize them? Because we've talked about core today, and core being our main teaching tool that we filter. You know, I mean, we have lots of information out there, but we really are building your core, being able to courageously be committed to truth. And so that means recognizing the lies, recognizing the beliefs that you have that may not be true, but you're living by them.
So I started to realize, obviously, after the addiction was revealed, I started to put in some strong boundaries. We did a therapeutic disclosure with a polygraph test and some really intense treatment plans that the psychotherapist gave us. But for me, my job was to walk in truth. And so that was kind of hard because I really didn't understand my truth. I had been gaslit. You know, I really trusted that the truth my husband had told me every time I confronted was true. And so for me to overcome the limiting belief, I had to get to the point that I had to realize that his truth wasn't true, and that I had to believe the facts of what I was finding, whether I liked them or not. And so I had to, you know, like, for example, when I found I had an account that had $70,000 in it, and one day I went to check it and all the money was gone. And I confronted that, and I was told that he had invested the money, that I was crazy. I was accusatory. How dare me? And so the limiting belief for me became, you know, you don't understand finances. You're not smart. You know, how dare you question your husband who knows so much? You're just a stay-at-home mom. You know, you don't really understand this stuff. But meanwhile, I had spreadsheets that I had done that I had tracked everything. And so I could never get to the truth until after the polygraph and the disclosure. And then the truth came out that, that money was gone. and I had been lied to. And so at that point, I realized I need to reevaluate this. This is abuse. And so that's when I got into your program, it was because I was starting to realize that it wasn't just an addiction, and that sobriety wasn't going to fix this. Abuse is a whole nother facet that, another thing that we had to undergo. And so for me, I got into Conquer, and that limiting beliefs really helped me, because I had so many, like, I'm not good enough. I don't have the ability to succeed. I should be invisible. That's my best place, safest place to be. Be quiet, don't talk. Like, even to come on this today, I have been wrestling with those limiting beliefs. Even to come here, I was like, I think I want to back out. I don't think I want to do this. I might really mess up, and so it's been a really, even having to confront that. So yeah. And I remember the video that you did, it really stuck to me, where you were walking up to a gate, a door, and you couldn't, you felt like the door was locked. And
I told myself it was, yeah.
Yeah. And then you said, your friend said, look, it opened wide. And you were like, that's a limiting belief. And it really, that's me. I was like, that's exactly what I do. I get to the door and I decide, I don't think I can open it. I don't think I can do it, and I haven't even tried. So when I found your materials, I started doing some of the, where did this come from? Where some of these belief systems, where did I get these? And I realized that it's insecurities and fear that's really driving that, but of course, being lied to for so long, didn't help, because I started to doubt myself, my intuition. And so,
that really happens. Yeah, that really happens. And that Jocelyn was saying, it's so hard to be with others not understanding. I wish I was being validated, or I wish wanting to be validated. But here in Conquer, so these are places where in Conquer you can be validated. You can say, hey, I found this, but my husband's telling me I'm crazy. How many of you have ever been through this? And you'll have like 50 responses, me. So then all of a sudden you're validated. Okay, I'm not crazy. I'm right for feeling the way I'm feeling, and I'm right for speaking up for myself. So it really helps you to have that validation, even in Conquer.
Yeah, and it helps so much for me. I've been able to put some posts when I'm feeling that limiting belief coming, and the women have been amazing to, write, their thoughts and just the encouragement. Really, that's what it comes down to. For years, I suspected things. I just knew something wasn't right, but I could never figure it out. And then I would say, you know what, you're just distrustful. What's wrong with you? You can't. Love keeps a record of no wrongs. This just doesn't do it, And so I actually think I use scripture to limit myself, to limit. I think the Holy Spirit was trying to wake me up, and I actually was like, Satan, go away. I don't want to hear you. And it was really the Holy Spirit showing me little things, but I was totally had it twisted. So, and one of the two big limiting beliefs I had is, if I separate, I'll never be able to survive. That was a big one. And last year, my husband's abuse escalated, the covert abuse. And so I had to make a decision to leave. And that was totally going out there, and God worked it out. It worked out. And, in hindsight, it was the best thing that I could have done for myself, for my emotional safety, and for him to wake up to the reality that even if you do good recovery, even if you get into abuse programs, I am not willing to permit this behavior anymore. And so that was, it was really helpful. That your limiting beliefs lessons were extremely helpful to me.
That's so good. What kind of recovery is your husband in? And is he really changing or not?
Yeah, well, last year I was starting to wonder. We're at 3.5 years. So we're at 3.5, so 2.5 years of recovery. And, after the polygraph and the disclosure, he had to do, there was a boatload of things. He had to go to 2 12-step programs, 2 Christian programs, all for sexual addiction. And then he had to do accountability partners. He had to do a 2-hour check-in with me every week. And that's actually been very helpful to me to stay in truth, because I write everything down. There's no, everything that happened that week. I have a book that's about this big of it every week, just for my own sanity. I'm not crazy. And then apart from that, a year into it, when we realized that sobriety, the abuse doesn't stop just because you're sober, because it's an entitlement. Then at that point, he got into a batterer intervention program, and he graduated from a local batterer intervention program, and then he did a Christian batterer intervention program. And to me, that's been some of the most helpful things in his recovery, because he realized that he was not seeing me as his equal. He was very entitled. And even though he's a nice guy, and, you know, if he was bad all the time, I would have left. But because we had good and bad, you know, I questioned my sanity. So now I understand that, and he understands. And that's on the things that he does. But at home, he's empathetic. He holds space for me. He doesn't go into, like, if I have to bring something up now, he's not defensive like he used to be, where, you know, he would start with the defensiveness and the, you know, turning it around on me and becoming a victim. He takes responsibility for the things that he does. And when I bring something up, it's no longer a competition of, I want to be right. It's, he hears me and we talk through, you know, whatever the situation may be. And so he's really becoming a different man. And I'm so grateful. I'm like, I don't think I could do many more years of, you know, I know I wouldn't, of what we've done before. So, yeah.
And what motivated him to want to become a different man? Because I think that's the issue.
Well, I think, to be frank, in the beginning, he was just doing it to save the marriage. You know, he didn't want the marriage to end. And so he got himself into recovery, and he did the polygraph and the disclosure. And then he felt a sense of freedom, because for the first time, I knew the real man I married, not just the highlights, but the bad. And there was a freedom to it. And so once he did that, I think recovery started to become his, where he was looking forward to becoming a better man. And then what he ended up doing after a year, he was actually doing very well as far as his sexual addiction recovery. But I had journaled all the abuse episodes. At this point, I already understood what abuse was. You know, I was really, like, my eyes were opened. And so then when he decided to go into the batterer intervention program, that really was probably the turning point for us, because that's when he started to really want to do this. It's hard. It's hard to be told, you know, that you are an abuser. Like, that's a label nobody wants to wear. And I used to tell him, you know, if you're abusive, you have to wear the label, because that's just how it works. Now, if you don't want that label, then stop being abusive. It's super simple, you know? And so he has worked really hard. Last year, I think when we were in the process that he was making amends for a lot of the things that he's done, because we have over 30 to 40 episodes of abuse, you know, in a 27-year marriage. I had journaled each individual episode as the mind would remember. I was working through trauma. I think it got a little bit overwhelming for him, and he started to go back to some of those old behaviors, the defensiveness, you know. And so that's when I was like, I'm not going back there. I'm out, you know. And so we took a break for, it was like 3 months, just so I could be emotionally safe. I moved out, and then when I came back, he had the whole time he continued working his batterer programs. And to be frank, I think what motivated him was he's becoming a better man. I mean, he's not just becoming a better man in our marriage. At his job, he's better. He's more focused. He gets a lot of tasks done that he didn't used to do. And he just feels such a sense of accomplishment from doing that, and just seeing women differently. You know, he does feel a lot of remorse for, you know, the things that he watched, and that he, you know, the belief system that he had. But I see it just growing in our relationship. And to me, that's really important. We have three adult kids, and I want them to see, even to me, even if our marriage didn't work out, he's still the father of my children. And I really wanted my children to have a good man, you know, a healed man. And so I'm grateful that I get to be a part of seeing it, and that our generations will have a man who's humbled himself and said, you know what, I want to be different. You know, I don't see that very often.
No, I don't either. And I think what's so neat to hear your story is that, you know, you had to confront your dysfunction in order to stand strong enough that he had the possibility to confront his dysfunction, right?
Yeah.
So you had to be really willing to stand strong. And that's what Conquer helped you do.
Yeah.
That's not, so he could have said, I'm not doing a full disclosure. Many husbands don't, because they don't want all that junk to come out. I'm not taking a lie detector. You're asking unreasonable things. You're being uncharitable. You're not being forgiven. Start attacking and accusing you. And so here's what we talked about in the webinar, ladies, where we talked about how do you know someone's really changing, is that they're wanting to be a different person. And it might not be right away. So they like Linda said, she went through the he went through the counseling because he didn't want to lose the marriage, but he still wanted to keep the sin. And so as he was doing his work superficially and behavior kinds of modification kinds of things, it came to, okay, here's the rubber meets the road. Linda, she's at a place where I'm not willing to go forward unless I know all what's going on and I want a full disclosure. That was the domino she put down. Here's the gauntlet. And it could have crashed her whole marriage. She could have said, not willing to do it. You're being unreasonable. If you don't believe me, that's it. Right? But he didn't. He did it. And once he couldn't lie anymore because it's out there and she knew, that gave him his next path. Am I going to go back to the way I was, or am I going to forge a new way forward? This is an opportunity for me to start a new path forward, and I can be healthy. Just like Conquer right now is an opportunity for you to forge a new path forward. Do I want to get healthy? Do I want to get strong? Or do I want to continue in the same dysfunction I'm in? He's in his dysfunction, but you were in yours. He had his own beliefs, like I'm entitled to act out without any accountability or responsibility, just like we talked about in the webinar. He had to really own that and begin to see, no, he's not. But as long as you were willing enough to let him do it, it fed his belief. And so these beliefs, these limiting beliefs, these mindsets, God tells us that we are transformed by the renewing of our mind. But if you don't have people who are in your life who love you and confront you with that, how do you know? You just believe it's the belief. You don't even recognize it's a lie. It's just normal and natural. And you felt that too, even in Conquer. And I'm so proud of you that you pushed through your fear and came on and didn't cancel, and you're doing a great job. And everybody's like, oh, this is helpful. Yeah. So, you're being really helpful. And I just want you to know the feedback is people are appreciating your story and the fact that your strength, just like when you got healthy enough to say, I'm not going to live like this anymore, it gave him an opportunity to get healthy, and he took it. And it's been wobbly. And then when you felt like he was slipping and you gave him that feedback and you had to say, hey, I got to take care of me, instead of I've got to rescue you. I've got to take care of me. I'm getting myself, you decide what you're going to do. And he did. And those are some of the ways that you know that someone is changing when there's no promise that you're going to fix them or rescue them or overfunction for them. You're not. And now they've got to put their big boy pants on and decide what kind of man they want to be. And when they do, it can be amazing.
Amen.
Yeah.
And it's not perfect by any means. It's something I have to say. We still have our disagreements, but it's not destructive. That's the difference. When we have a disagreement, we settle it well. We don't, destroy, like the jade part. That was another thing that, I used to just, oh my gosh, I would justify, argue, defend, explain. Whenever I wanted that point, I'm like, but can't you see? Like, look, I have spreadsheets, I know that you did this. And it didn't work. That did not work. All that did was make my adrenals fatigued, shut down my heart, not help my liver. Abuse, trauma hurts. Abuse hurts your body. It hurt my body. Like, I literally couldn't believe, like, I look now and I think, how in the world was I telling my doctor I was under normal stress? Like, in what world did I even believe that lie? That's not true. But I just, I honestly, it took God opening the floodgates of the sin in the household. And I'm so grateful to the Lord. I know that sounds kind of crazy, that the discovery of a secret addiction I would be grateful for, but it permitted me to finally, it was like I came out of prison and the prison was opened, out I came. And now you can get to decide, what do you want to do with this information? And are you going to get stuck there, or are you going to finally get healthy? And so I am grateful for Conquer, because, and the abuse portion of my journey, covert abuse is a little different from, the in your face abuse. But when I watched your covert abuse videos, Leslie, I really felt that you had put a camera in my house, because the things that you were saying were almost word for word things that I have heard in my marriage when we were still in abuse, cyclical abuse. And I just never realized that this is a real thing. Like this is real. Like you're not imagining this, you know, it's so nice to have a group of women that understand and that aren't, you know, I did at one point we were at about 15 years marriage. I reached out to someone in the church to see if they could help me because I felt like something was wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint it. And when I asked the elder's wife, the first thing she told me was, well, you know, you are a very opinionated woman. You are probably confrontational and disrespectful. And you best get off of your husband. He's leading the best way that he knows. You need to focus on yourself and forget about, you know, whatever it is that you think. And I remember all that did was send me into reading more Christian books that kept on telling me, look at yourself, it's your fault, you know, figure yourself out. But the freedom to know the truth was the beginning for me, you know, even as dark and ugly as it may have been. I was really grateful because now I know what I'm dealing with, and I don't have to stay if I don't want to. It's okay. You know, it'll hurt because I do love my husband, but I also have to care for myself and respect myself and value myself as a daughter of the Most High God. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, Linda. And I think it's important that you said something really important, that the traditional advice was do your work because it's your fault. And I think this is what's different about Conquer. Yeah. I do tell you to do your work, not because it's your fault. He's acting out because he's acting out. He's got his own issues. But do your work so you don't keep putting it up with it anymore, so that you don't keep dancing that same crazy dance. And you talked about JADE. And for those of you who don't know what JADE is, we teach, I didn't make it up, but it's an acronym, that J, don't justify, don't argue, A, don't defend, D, and don't explain, E. And so we do that. We, in a conversation with a normal person, when you're having a conversation and you said we argue, but we don't argue like we used to. When we argue with people, we do justify, we do argue, we do defend, and we do explain, because that's how you communicate. You say, oh no, that's not how it happened. Oh, here, no, you did take that thing out of the max. See, it's here. And you talk about those things, and other people who are healthy say, oh, okay, I must have forgotten. You know, you do those kind of things. So I'm not saying never, Jade, but when you start having a conversation with someone who is tying you in knots with circular conversations, and every time you bring something up, they say, well, you do the same thing. You know, so and now you got to defend yourself. No, I don't do what you do, you know, and now you're back defending those, or you're arguing with someone, trying to get them to understand, and they don't want to understand. They don't want to see your point of view. They don't want to care about your feelings. Stop it. You're just going to exhaust yourself. And so we teach you how not to jade and how to say it differently. And actually in Conquer this year, we're going to be doing some role plays. I'm going to do some role plays with the coaches so we can show you exactly how to do it when someone's gaslighting you and those kind of things. But and it doesn't mean they're going to respond, oh, now I see. But you're going to keep your side of the street clean so that they don't have the opportunity to twist you in knots anymore like you were getting.
It gives them a lot of power that we don't need to give them. We don't have to give them that power. But the thing is, I had to get healthy enough to not let my emotions get in the way and say, no, I know what I'm seeing and it's real. You know, there is $70,000 missing out of that account. No amount of you telling me there isn't is going to convince me that and just be done, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, so. And one thing that I wanted to say that was kind of a precursor that I should have known some years back. When around 2013, we were obviously in the middle of cyclical abuse, didn't understand, but I went to a counselor and brought the whole family. We all went to the counselor, and my youngest daughter, who's 19 right now, drew a picture. She had all the kids draw a picture of their family. And the picture that she drew was my husband holding my oldest daughter's hand. And he's the tallest, then her, then my son, then the youngest, then me at the very bottom. I was the smallest of the family members. And we were all holding hands, but I was at the bottom. And so that counselor was very troubled by that picture, because she said to me, your daughter does not see you as an equal to your husband. In fact, she doesn't even see you as an equal to them.
The children.
Yeah. And I did not know what to make of that at the time. I really did not know what to make of that, because in my mind, I thought I was an equal. And now I'm like, she was prophetic. There was,
Yeah.
at 10 years of age, she was already understanding the power and balance in our household when I was blind to it, you know.
Yeah. And just because you were able to confront or articulate didn't mean you had equal power. And I think that was the
That's right.
entitlement, you know, and how he saw women and how he was teaching your children to see women. Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much. Brave girl. You put your brave on today. And this is one of the things that we teach in Conquer is how do you put your brave on even when you feel afraid? Right. So she felt afraid, but she didn't let fear decide. She put her brave on because brave isn't a feeling. You don't ever feel brave. You do brave even when you feel afraid. That's what makes you brave. When you're just out there doing stuff and you're not afraid, that's not brave. But when you're afraid and you do something, that's when you're brave. And so we teach you how to put your brave on because fear is real and we're not going to never feel fear, but we don't want the fear decide because when fear decides, you're sunk. You're sunk. So good job. Good job.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Have a great one.
All right.
Leslie.
I'm going to let you go. You
Bye.
too. Thanks. Bye-bye. All right. And now we have a very special treat for you. This is like, I'm going to need some water or something. My helper, I asked him to bring me something at 11 and not here. Anyway, we're going to have a special treat for you. One of my coaches, Diana, is going to come and talk about covert abuse. Now, Linda kind of mentioned a little bit of that covert abuse is different than overt abuse. And some of you are stuck in covert abusive relationships. And it's like 1,000 bee stings. It's really hard to define. It's hard to describe. It's hard to pin down. It's hard to tell anybody about it. And it's hard to be believed because it doesn't sound like a big deal. So Diana, I'm going to invite you to be here with us. Hold on. And thank you for joining us in this live stream. It's been wild. It's been great and crazy. And so I just wanted you to share a little bit about some of your understanding. You've become a little bit of the expert in covert abuse here. And so I just want you to share the difference between covert and overt abuse.
Sure, absolutely. You know, so many of our women are experiencing what we would call covert abuse. It's the kind of destructiveness that you're experiencing that is not seen from the outside. And so I just want to be clear that both covert and overt abuse, the goal is to control, dominate, and win, whatever it is. It could be a small thing, but underlying the goals are, I want to control, I want to dominate, and I want to win. So there's no sense of equality in either one of these relationships. But a covert, some adjectives that I like to think about when I'm thinking about covert are, it's just, remember that it's not openly acknowledged or displayed. It's very sneaky, very subtle, very hidden. And again, the goal is control. Whereas if someone's going to overtly abuse you, it's easily discernible. It's clear-cut abuse, and it might be verbal, might be physical, sexual, financial. But this is the individual that's really interested in mirroring a positive image to everyone else. And so you may be the only one that's seeing these behaviors, that's experiencing this destructiveness. And so it's very, very hard. You can't say, look, see what he's doing, because they're very adept at projecting that wonderful image. And it's not at all uncommon for us to find people who are really good at this in positions of power and authority, right? And so
church leaders and, ministry leaders and all of that, right?
Exactly. And, we've all heard of them in the news recently, unfortunately, because some things are beginning to come to light, but they have everybody totally baffled, and it's the type of thing where there are like two people. And I just had a call with somebody yesterday, and she said it's like two different people, right? And so what's interesting is they know how to behave because they're mirroring an image to the public, right? But in intimate relationships, they often just really feel threatened, and that's where those abusive behaviors come out because they want to control and they want to dominate. So there's nothing that you can do that's going to be on an equal plane. And so I'll talk a little bit more about what it feels like. So if you're involved in a relationship where there's covert abuse, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of self-doubt and a loss of trust in your own perception, and your ability to really know what the reality is. Is it his reality? Because you're being minimized. You're being talked out of what you think and you know. It's, for me, I describe it as a subtle form of brainwashing. And I think, you can only hear a message so long. And, maybe at the beginning of the relationship, better. You're just like, oh, you can think what you want to think, but slowly that gets in your psyche, and you start to believe these things, and you start to get confused about what it is that you want, what you think, feel, and know. And so, and then when you question that, the abuser will come back at you with, well, I didn't say that, or you're crazy. A lot of those tactics are being used. So it's concealed, disguised, and very secretive. It's very hard to identify and very hard to call out. And another common characteristic is they hide behind a mask. The true self is not really present. You see the true self. It's not pretty. We might want to call them, or the Bible calls them, sheep in wolf's clothing. And they're going to protect their image, and it's very, very hard to call them out publicly. And to others, they might be the good guy, very friendly, flattering, or just calm. And so when you speak out about it, you're not believed, and they'll create confusion. Often what ends up happening, and we've seen this a lot, Leslie, where you'll go to counseling and you'll try to talk about what's happening, and they present such a positive image. It's confusing to the people helper to really help to identify what's going on. And I think that's where we get a lot of bad counsel, when we don't have experts at really understanding or even believing what's happening.
Yeah, I think, so when we think about aggression, because sometimes I think people confuse covert abuse with passive aggression. So passive aggression isn't covert abuse. So we have aggressive abuse, like in your face snarling abuse, hitting, very aggressive abuse. And then you have aggressive abuse, like sticking you with a pin. Right? So it's not passive, it's aggressive abuse, but it's much more secret, much more hidden. So when you react, ouch, what'd you do? I didn't do anything. What are you talking about? Right? That's what covert abuse is like. It's still aggressive. It's not passive, like I forgot, but it's aggressive, but it's secret aggressive that only you see, only you feel, only arguing with you, like you're oversensitive. Are you PMSing this month, dear? You just are overreacting. I'm not overreacting. I'm just angry. This isn't overreacting. It's just angry reacting. But it starts to make you feel like, am I overreacting? Am I acting nuts? And then you start to overreact.
Yeah, you might ask for what you need, and your partner might look at you with this tone and this posture, and I can never please you. And so, but really what we're looking at is a consistent, repeated pattern of these devaluing behaviors. And in our Conquer Clarity module, you have really wonderfully listed all of these behaviors so that we can become familiar what that looks like, so that if it's happening to you, you can easily identify, so that you don't feel isolated and alone, because it's very confusing to try to get to the bottom of this. There might be subtle jokes, that are made at your expense. There may be some passive aggressive behaviors that are used where you might ask for what you need, and then it's just never heard. It's never done. It's just really, remember, it's really about power and control. And this other individual is not going to let you have any control. So if you're asking for something that you really want, maybe a part of that strategy is, just because you've asked and that gives you power, the answer is no. I may say yes, but I'm going to walk away and just forget about it, right? And so there's a little bit of a passiveness there. But so, if you have a repeated history of, 10, 20 years of, these things piling up that you've asked for and they've just been ignored, there's a message there. And you can't change someone like this. They have to really want to change on their own. But what we focus on really helping you understand and know is that you're not crazy. And I have someone that I work with, and it's so cute. She'll say to me, it's a thing. Every time she identifies one of those behaviors, she's like, it's a thing. And so the light bulbs are going on, like, it's a thing. I'm not crazy. This is really happening to me, and it's not okay. And that's the goal of really what we do in Conquer is helping you to identify these behaviors so you can develop awareness and you're not doing the crazy dance.
Can you give our listeners some examples of some behaviors that might be covert, that are aggressively covert? In terms of so one would be like rolling their eyes. Nobody else sees it, but rolling their eyes.
Right.
So in other words, he doesn't say it, but he's rolling his eyes like you're overreacting, or here we go again, or you're being ridiculous, or you're too much, right? Those labels. And again, sometimes we might all do these things. So please don't say, oh, he did it, he's a covert abuser. We all do some of these things some of the time. The difference between someone who is dangerous with it and someone who's stupid with it is that when you give the other person feedback and you say, you just rolled your eyes at me and I don't like that, the other person says, you know what? I am sorry. I remember working with a couple and the husband would always laugh like inappropriately at, he would just giggle. And she was like, stop it. You're making me feel diminished and demeaned. He goes, I know, I'm so sorry. I can't help it. I don't know why I'm so uncomfortable with your emotions. So he owned it. So that's not covert abuse. It's not, you don't like it. It's unhappy. But when you call someone on it and they minimize or they deny or they make it look like you're the crazy one for even thinking that they would do that, that becomes more covert abuse. But what are some of the behaviors that are covertly abusive?
I like to think of a posture. I think the covert abusers have a posture. They often pretend that they don't know what you're talking about when you're calling them on something, or act forgetful. Shaming, guilt tripping, minimizing what's happened to you or how you feel, calling you negative or calling you critical. You might just ask for something simple like, can you please put the dishes in the dishwasher instead of laying them in the sink? And you may ask for that over and over. It's a simple request, right? It's like, what are we talking? 12 inches from the sink to the, and just anything, any request, whether it's small or large, is met with, I can never do anything right with you. I work and work and work. It's just, but they'll give you the posture. They may not even say it. One thing I think that I'm really hear a lot is a look behind the eyes. The look behind the eyes is often a very aggressive, abusive look. And there may have been earlier on in the relationship, some scary tactics used, maybe a violent outburst. And that only has to happen once for a covert abuser to maintain that control. Because I think somebody had said to me, I had to repent of being guilty of controlling my children with the angry look behind my eyes. So that's a familiar one for me, is because it doesn't take much for someone to look at you that way for you to know I've done something wrong. You better get in line. And so the destructiveness of this is you learn how to pattern your behavior around this type of individual so you don't make them angry. You don't feel the put downs. And a lot of it, I think, is used with gestures and posturing.
So when we think about abuse being, or an abuser doing whatever they do, whether it's restrain you or hit you or put you down or lock you in a room or don't talk to you for 2 weeks, whatever they do, roll their eyes at you, snicker at you, tell the children that mommy's having one of those moments, children. It's made to make you stop doing what you're doing. Stop criticizing him. Stop telling him how you feel. Stop asking for more. It's meant to control you. Stop telling me what you feel and it works, whatever it takes to work. So here's the important part of what our group, you're not going to change his tactics, just like you're not going to change a manipulator's tactics. And Unia is going to come on later on to talk about that. You're not going to change that. What you have to do is understand how you have to dance a different dance, because he's trying to suck you into this covert abusive dance relationship so that if I look at you like this, don't say another word, right? Or if I look at you like this, that your feelings are ridiculous and you're asking too much of me, right? And so you stop. And so it's a means of controlling you without having to look like the bad guy. Because when you confront him on it, he's going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. You're imagining it. Nobody else says this about me. I don't understand why you're so sensitive. Right. And so it's just like a no-win and you feel nuts. You feel nuts inside. And that's the purpose, is to help you get off balance and lose your confidence in your own perceptions of things, your own feelings. Like, am I too sensitive? Am I being selfish because I'm just asking for some attention or some affection or some fairness in the money distribution in our family? Am I being an ungodly wife? So there's these implications that you're not doing it right, that you're bad, that you're not good, that you're not following the Christian wife role, whatever it might be. And it's not direct, but it's undermining.
And I think it's very confusing, as your last speaker was talking. There's often enough good, or it's very confusing when you see them doing good out with everyone else. It distorts your perspective of what your story and your experience is. And I think it's a dangerous place to be, all alone and isolated, because it can lead to isolation, depression, confusion, and I think just really an erosion of yourself, so that you're really not living out who you are. You've become an accommodation of who this person wants you to be. You don't speak up, you don't stand up for yourself, because you're just trying to survive. And in some instances, these types of abusers don't show up until after you're married. And then it shows up slowly. But sometimes the red flags are there before you're in the relationship, and you just don't know what to look for. And for me, the sad part of all of that is you're not really being loved and cherished, and you're missing out on all that God has for you. And there's this thought that I hear from so many women that we get to work with, Leslie, that they use the term woke, and they'll say, I read her book and now I'm woke. And that's really the goal of what we do, is to wake up. It's an awakening phase, to develop clarity and to see who owns what. This isn't me. It's, this is happening to me. And now what do I do with this? And, I think as a part of the journey, what we do is to help other women really understand that they do have choices. They don't have to be a part of this destructive dance, and to learn and practice new behaviors.
And I think what happens sometimes, Jocelyn's saying, I feel so understood, so helpful. And this is really good in Conquer. That, I mean, this is what you feel. So we're feeling a little bit here because you're hearing from these other women. And so you can hear this all day from me and all day from my coaches. But when you hear from other women who lived through it and they're now on the other side of it, it is helpful. And that's why Conquer, and we put this on a private community, obviously, because you're not going to share all this publicly, right? We're on here sharing publicly, but you're not going to share this publicly. You can't. It's not safe. And so it's very important for you to understand that this community of that support and that validation and that help is so vital to your healing and your progress, and even recognizing it. Sometimes we don't recognize it. I just finished reading a book about the Nexium cult, where the women got branded by that guy. And, these are grown women, educated women who are Hollywood actresses, women who, are beautiful women. And they got so isolated and so brainwashed by a charismatic man that they lost themselves, just like Diana said. They lost themselves, and they became sex slaves. They weren't people anymore, and they allowed themselves even to get branded by this man. And so it happens. It can happen in isolation. It can happen in churches. When we think about the churches, that are very cultish, with a charismatic leader who, just kind of tells you have to listen to my way, and that's the highway. And so Diana, how does someone, if they're married to a covert abuser, what would be one or two things that they can do? They're not going to change him. So what are one or two things they can do besides get, fresh air with other women? What can they do to begin to change their side of the dance?
In our modules, one of the things that we use is the Cartman's triangle, and the Cartman's triangle is the victim, the persecutor, and the rescuer, right? And so we learn to understand that model and what role we play in that model, and then we'll understand the interactions. Like, is he being a victim in this? And what do I need to do to really step out of that cycle? so that I can empower myself not to get engaged in that behavior again and again and again. So some of the other things, for me, Leslie, I think the biggest thing I teach is understand these tactics, because if you don't know what's happening, you won't really, you'll step into it again and again and again. And one of the things that we also talk about is distancing, really understanding that, you know, what I can change and what I can't change. And if you've been in this argument again and again and again, or in this scenario, it's not going to change. The only thing that you can change is how you respond to it. So we work on developing self-esteem again, recognizing who you are, because we've lost that. We've lost it in an effort to keep the peace, right? And so identifying, you know, who I am, stepping out of the cycle, and really, I think a lot of positive affirmations like, I can't change him, I can only change me. But using your voice in ways that you are heard with individuals that can hear you, can love you, and can care with you.
And I think one of the things that I encourage women to do when they're in this covert relationship, understand the issues about control. So if you don't let that work, just like Uni is going to come on about manipulation, if you don't let that work with you, so if he's trying to shut you up because he doesn't want to face something that you're bringing up, like the bills or the taxes or the kids or the mess in the house or whatever, and so he's trying to get you to be quiet, I think what you can say to him, and it's not going to change him, but you're going to say to him, I see what you're doing. You're trying to make me feel ashamed that I am telling you that I don't like this, but it's not working anymore. I don't feel ashamed. I feel I have every right to tell you I don't like this. I don't like you leaving your dishes in the sink. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to be asking you to carry your fair share of the house. Right? So you stand up for yourself. He's not going to say, oh, thank you. He's not going to go there. Right? So don't even think he probably will leave even more dishes in the sink to pay you back. But what that does, whether you say it out loud to him, you might try it, or whether you just say it inside to you, it helps you stay clean. It helps you stay clear-headed, that you're not being unreasonable. You're not being a critical person. You're not being selfish. You're just being normal. And you're asking for someone to change their behavior so it makes life easier for the two of you to keep your house managed or keep your finances in order, or whatever it is. And he's saying, like some of you on the feed, my husband's saying, if I just do whatever he wants, we'll be fine. No, we won't be fine. He'll be fine. That's the problem. That's the problem with an abusive mindset, is as long as you do everything I want and you never challenge me, we'll be fine. We won't be fine because you won't be fine. And this is where women have failed to stick up for themselves because of this idol of marriage, is that, oh, we'll be fine because I have to just silence and suppress me in order for us to be fine, which allows him to control you, which isn't healthy for either one of you.
Yep. And so we talk about really being honest about what you want, what you need, and being very clear in that. And we, you know, as Leslie said, speak up for yourself as long as it is safe and it's not going to escalate into a threat for physical safety, right? So We're going to use our voices and we're going to speak up. And again, in most cases, it may not change the situation, but it's going to change you, and you're going to feel empowered. You're going to feel some strength, and you're going to start to recover your identity, which has been robbed because someone wants you to take on their identity.
Yeah, we're getting some feed in the broadcast that our broadcast is freezing and all that. So I'm not sure whether, Martha, if you can give us some feedback, whether we're still live or not live. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that it's breaking right up during the talk. That's pertinent to my situation. I'm so sorry, Becky. I'm not sure why, because we have a Ethernet cord going on, and so we should have the strongest internet coverage that we can possibly have. So I don't know if Facebook is having problems again or not.
She said we were frozen for a little bit, but I think we're good now.
Good. Okay, so just refresh your page. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Diana. I appreciate you being on with us and being one of my coaches, and you're so wise in this area. And so I'm going to move on to Unia. So I'm going to let you go.
All right.
And Unia is going to be talking kind of as a subset of covert abuse. It's a manipulator, someone who's using manipulative tactics to try to get you to do what they want. Again, there's this control, and again, I want to say we all can use these things. we can give our kids a guilt trip. You don't know how hard I work to serve you. How come you're not appreciating me? Martha's saying it's frozen again. So I'm not sure what's going on, but we'll keep going because it will be on the videotape, hopefully, and you can watch it later, even if we're frozen. So I'm going to add you, Unia. Hi, Unia.
Hi. I was just.
Hi, we're having some technical problems with Facebook, I think. They're freezing.
I don't know. Okay, fine.
Your feed is fine?
I was letting you know you were still live, but you know what? It's because I'm in here in the video feed. So maybe.
Okay, yeah. Martha's trying to refresh, so I'm not sure what's going on. On our feed, it looks fine. So I all I can say is we're still going. So it's taped, and so you can watch the ending of it later. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what are some tactics. I've talked about the guilt trip. You know, well, you're a bad person if you don't do what I want. What are some other guilt, or not guilt trips? What are some other tactics of a manipulator? But more importantly, how can someone who senses they're being manipulated respond?
Well, I just want to back up and kind of do the broader lens and just say manipulation shows up in destructive relationships because a lot of times we want to believe the best about people, and we should. And what ends up happening is we don't have buckets, right? When actual information comes to us, we don't have buckets for. Some people act in manipulative ways. So we as people, when we're looking for relationships or churches or friends and family, just think like everybody's trying their best or everybody's being an earnest person, but there's actual buckets of people that are not being honest. They're not putting their actual face out there. They're not actually being honest with you. And so I think just understanding that, you end up in a manipulative relationship because maybe you didn't have a bucket for that. Maybe you just thought everything that this person does is trustworthy. And I think that's also hard when this person can be very charismatic, either very quietly charismatic or loud and charismatic to your friends and family when you're out and about.
Hold on, Unia. We're having some tech issues. What's going on? Okay. We're losing our audience because we're frozen. So we're going to end the broadcast and start again. Okay. So come back and will the same link work? Okay. All right. So I'm going to end this.